This week's episode is sponsored by Change. Change is the #1 mentoring programme that teaches you e-commerce from scratch. Change has a real community with real results. I have been working with Ryan for many years now and have attended many of his events and retreats across the world and got to meet members and the amazing community of like-minded people. Ryan works with a lot of big names in the business world, helping them build online businesses and e-commerce. Change offers personal one-on-one support, no experience needed, but like anything, this takes time and is not a get-rich-quick scheme. If you put the work in, you will get the results. E-commerce and online shopping is getting bigger and bigger. This is a great opportunity for anyone that is looking for financial freedom. For more information, go follow Ryan on Instagram at RyanJB, and he will guide you through the steps to help you get started and build a successful online business. You can now follow me on all my social media platforms to find out who my latest guest will be. And don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you're notified for when my next podcast goes live. And boom, we're on. And today's guest, we've got Jaymie Icke. Jaymie, how are we?
I'm good, mate. I'm good.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too, mate. It's been a few years.
Yeah, you were up in Glasgow. You interviewed me.
Long time ago, yeah. I remember it being freezing, windy.
Yeah.
That's just Glasgow, right?
Yeah, of course, every day is it's the same up there. But had your father on yesterday. Great guy.
Yeah.
For everything he spoke about, it takes massive courage for doing that over 35 years. You've got sort of a similar story now. You were also a goalkeeper through the pro youth ranks, Portsmouth, Man United. Now you're also in the Ickonic studio doing your thing, documentaries, interviewing fascinating people. So it'll be good to get to understand you a bit more.
Yeah, cool.
And understand where you've went through, what you've overcome. Because obviously with your dad being ridiculed in that all those years ago, how you handled that. But first and foremost, how are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm really good. Really, really good. Busy, which is amazing because it means you're doing something that you enjoy doing. It means you're doing stuff of like value if you're busy. And so I'm enjoying that. But no, life's good, in a good place. Good. Nice family. We're working with families, good fun, has its challenges, as you can imagine, but it's good fun. And yeah, feeling really blessed to be where I am, yeah.
Good. Before we get into everything though, I always like to go back to the start with my guests, get more of a bit of understanding about you, where you grew up and how it all began. Yeah,
so I grew up on the Isle of Wight, born in 92. Isle of Wight was amazing in those days, amazing place to grow up because everything that the country, the issues you have with the country, the inner cities, the Isle of Wight was protected from that. It was always a decade behind. So, you know, growing up, you never had any fears of gangs or violence. You grew up by the seaside. It was amazing. Summers, beach parties. It was just a really cool place to grow up. Got into football when I was really young, obviously following the family tradition. So I remember going and taking to first game with my dad at the old Filbert Street in Leicester, probably been like 5 or 6 years old, and just falling in love with football. And that was like back in the day when you had like Robbie Savage, Muzzy Izzet, people like that playing for Leicester, Emil Heskey when he was like 17. So then I started playing on the rec and then ended up joining a brand new team that about 8 of us formed, well, Dad's formed. And before you know it, within a year or so, I was at Portsmouth at a really great time to be at Portsmouth Football Club. They just got promoted to the Premier League under Harry Redknapp the first time. There was a really good feel-good factor. You know, you got tickets to games. You saw them beat Man United when United had like young Rooney and Ronaldo and Roy Keane and stuff in the team. And that was what I thought I was going to do in my life. So I spent 4 years there. But Portsmouth, as you know, it got proven a few years after I left, the infrastructure of the club was chaos. And obviously that eventually ended with them nearly going out of business. And like there was no progression from youth level to being a first team player, none at all. And at that time I was lucky that my school side on the island did really well and got to a few national tournaments where it's just a hotbed for scouts from clubs all over the country. I got spotted at 13, I think it was, by an Aston Villa scout at a tournament up in the Midlands. I I couldn't go there because I was signed for Portsmouth. So when the season ended, we decided not to renew at Portsmouth. Went to Villa, really didn't do very well at all. Completely bottled it, to be honest, when I got there. And then I guess got quite disenfranchised with football and thought that the experiences I'd had of it were really high pressure. And, you know, it's like when you're 14, you want to be hanging out with your mates. You don't necessarily want to be sat disciplined with what you're eating, what you're spending your time doing, and constantly in a high pressure situation. So I kind of got disenfranchised a bit and took a step back. And then at 16, my school side on the island host a national tournament at Easter where schools from all over the country come down and play. And I remember having two of the best games I've ever had. Somehow the Isle of Wight, given how small it is, we beat Leeds schools, which is obviously a massive football place, and beat another place from inner city London. And next thing you know, my dad appears and went, "You're going to Man United next week." And it was like, right, okay. And in the first game, a Southampton scout had spoken to me, and it was just whirlwind. Literally 4 days after that last game, we're up at Carrington, sat at a table with Alan Smith, Gary Neville, and the week of that trial was the week they beat Roma 7-1. I don't know if you remember that a few years back. Obviously got to go to the game, sat like 2 rows up from Gemma Atkinson, who was dating Cristiano Ronaldo at the time. It was just so weird.
Was she?
Yeah, you're talking, this would
Was
have
that
been
the game Rooney scored the hat-trick?
No, I think Rooney scored a couple, Ronaldo scored a couple. It was when Michael Carrick scored after like 30 seconds, long-range screamer. Because it was the reverse fixture of, do you remember the away leg? There was loads of violence and loads of United fans got like proper battered in Rome. So it was a reverse fixture of that. I think they'd lost 2-1 away. So coming back, it was obviously had to win the game, and it was just an amazing night. And again, but I sat there like, I don't deserve to be here, man. Like this, even though I'd worked so hard, I'd trained with my dad 2-3 days a week, played a couple of times a week when other people were hanging out, doing what you do as a teenager. I didn't do any of that, kept away from it. No drinking, drugs, smoking, none of it. And still, for some reason, just had imposter syndrome. And that was a really weird week, because you'd think you'd be sat there like, I want to be here. And I sat with players and other lads my age who had that mindset, that were looking at the first team players thinking, I want to be on this pitch in 2 or 3 years. I want to come out with my name and number on the back of a United shirt. Whereas for me, it was just like, don't deserve to be here.
Where does that come from?
I don't know, to be honest. I think part of it is potentially growing up on the Isle of Wight, which is very much good things always happen to other people. I know my brother had the same experience with the music industry, where, growing up from the Isle of Wight as a band, no one on the Isle of Wight ever does anything. So it was a little bit of that. And I think also because it was slightly cut off from the mainland, that felt nice as a young kid, because you felt a bit protected by stuff. But then as you get older, whether it's a perception thing or a psychological thing, everyone on the mainland just felt bigger, stronger, more athletic, more mature. And I remember going into like training sessions and with other goalkeepers and outfielders and just thinking everyone just seemed that little bit ahead of me. It's really strange, because I never played against a goalkeeper or with a goalkeeper and thought, you're significantly better than me. I never felt like that. And, I'm the same age as quite a lot of the lads that are in the Premier League these days, the England lot. Jack Butland's same age as me. I think Jordan Pickford's a year younger than me. And I think I played against Jack Butland, actually, when we were kids. When he was at Birmingham, I think I played against him for Southampton in a trial game. And never felt like anyone was that much above me. But they clearly had it upstairs. And that was a really interesting thing to observe. You saw players at 15, 16 in other positions to mine, where you'd look at and go, no way you're going to make it. Or equally, you'd look at someone and go, mate, you're going to be a superstar. And quite often it was actually roles reversed. Where I remember playing with a lad, his name was Tom, his left winger at United at 16. And honestly, I've never seen anyone. He was Ryan Giggs, mate. He was Welsh, hardest shot I've ever seen, even to this day, having played adult football. I never did anything with his career. And equally, I played with Ravel Morrison at United at 16. And didn't really stand out. And he had the best career, although he had, I think, a few issues off the pitch, which is why he didn't fulfil potentially could have done. But he, a couple of years later, was in the United first team. It's quite a strange one to observe, really.
But self-doubt kills more dreams than anything.
Yeah, and that was my issue, massively. If I had the mindset I have now, I genuinely think I'd play in the Premier League.
Do you think it affects kids then? Because obviously if you grow up in Isle of Wight where it's more peaceful and you're kept away from the fast noise, fast pace, and then coming into the big lights and big cities and everything's noise. Do you think it can scare kids if you try and protect them too much? It's not that you're protected, but you know what I'm saying, kept away from.
Yeah, I think it can. And I think, it's probably less like that at the island now than it was. It's a lot. It's caught up a lot, not in a good way. It's got a lot of the problems that the rest of the country has now. But potentially, yeah. Although I wasn't really sheltered from it. We travelled a lot. We went to Premier League games. We went to watch professional games quite a lot. Like, when I was at Portsmouth, whenever we had away games at in that period, Pompey weren't an academy; they were a centre of excellence, which is one level down. So you weren't playing, even though the first team were in the Premier League, you weren't playing the Premier League teams. You were playing, your Brightons, your Bournemouths. Obviously, in those days, were Championship clubs. You were playing Gillingham, Southend United, Cardiff City. Whenever we used to go and play on a Sunday, we'd always go the day before and watch the team we were playing. So you'd go and watch Bristol City first team against whoever. You go and watch Southend United against whoever. And so I was around a lot of professional situations, and obviously travelled a lot with my dad for his work as a kid. Was around like live television interviews and stuff from quite a young age. So that sort of thing didn't intimidate me. I think it was more just an internal thing where I just didn't feel like I fitted in. And even as an adult, I never felt like I fitted in a football dressing room. Even though I love football, I'm still involved with it now. I coach my son. But I just never felt like one of the lads, if you know what I mean. And I don't know if part of that's goalkeeper as well, that it is a slightly lonely position. It's invariably it's you against another person for the start. You're not getting brought on at 80 minutes to change the game. You're either starting or you're not, and you're only on if someone gets injured. And if you're not number one, you only get your chance if number one doesn't do very well. So it's quite a weird dynamic to train with somebody. And also you're sat on your own. You've not got a back four. You've not got another two midfielders or a strike partner you're stood with. You're very much on your own. So I don't know if that was part of it as well.
Did you ever speak to anybody about it?
Not overly, to be honest. I feel like I was probably one of the last generations before sports psychology became really big. So there wasn't really any of that to chat to.
How old are you now?
32. So you're talking, 2008, 2009, this sort of thing's going on. And I think, now you would probably be chucked into a psychologist or a counsellor or someone to speak to pretty much straight away the second you got an opportunity.
The mindset's the powerful thing. That's what makes or breaks you.
In most things in life, but in sport, definitely. Because the pressure of, I can't even think of the pressure of walking out at Old Trafford in front of 75,000 as like an 18-year-old. Like, you've got to be built and you've got to have that layers of self-belief, assurance built.
Yeah. I was speaking to one of the old Celtic players, I'll not name him, but he was saying before the games, he never wanted to go out. Even driving to the game or whatever, he was hoping like the bus would crash, things would happen so he didn't have to play. But yet when he played, it looked as if he played with freedom, but it wasn't the case. He struggled. Sometimes have a drink before the game to try and calm the nerves, like madness. And you would never ever think it. I had to go and speak to a sports psychologist about fear and overcoming fear. To then, it's just the pressure of that. It must be. That's what I'm saying. Like, football players have a lot of outside pressure, not just on the pitch. They've got family life and other issues like the battle with even Ronaldinho now. He's skint. This guy was on 250 grand a week. And he's battling with gambling addiction, and you don't know what people's actually battling with. And I was surprised when he told me that, like he was wanting the bus to crash and thinking about how he could pretend to fake an injury so he didn't have to play the next day. And I was thinking, wow, I didn't realise, again, I never got to that level, but I didn't realise the extent of what actually goes through the mind of football players.
Yeah, it's even harder now as well because
social media,
it doesn't end. When you, back in the day, and also I think there's a much bigger disconnect. Part of it's the money, part of it's the media, part of it's the lifestyle. Bigger disconnect between footballers and the fans. Like back in the day, they'd walk in the ground at the same time. They'd be down the mines in the morning, and that sort of thing. It was very much a working class heroes of the local place. Whereas because of a number of factors, a lot of players not coming from the towns and cities that they're playing for, there's not that connection. So the money is just so insane that there's just they're earning a week what it might take a bloke over a season ticket 10 years to earn. It's ridiculous, the gap. So there's definitely a more of a disconnect, I think, which is added to it. But with social media, you never get away from it. You finish the game, you go in the dressing room, your manager might give you a dressing down if you've not had a great game. Back in the day, you just go home. You go home to your wife and kids, and you kind of come back Monday and try harder. Whereas now,
did people know who your dad was?
Yeah, so Portsmouth in particular, yeah, because we've lived on the Isle of Wight for a long time. So, and Gareth had been in the Portsmouth system when he was a kid as well. So a few people knew, and obviously the Portsmouth youth setup has quite a big place on the island because really it's them or Southampton that are scouting for talent on there. So there was quite a quite well known. I remember there being a story randomly in the Daily Mirror when I was in year 6. So you're talking about 10, 11 years old, which was. I remember that it was a column inch. It was talking about Steve Coppell when he was manager of Reading, and then a story about a young Michael Owen, and then a story about Portsmouth have signed David Icke's madman David Icke's son into their under-11s team. It was just literally about 3 lines. It was so strange. I remember taking that into school, like, look at this, claim to fame. Obviously not understanding they're actually trying to take the piss, the context of it. But yeah, in terms of football's still quite old school. I say it is. He's talking a decade ago now. What it's like now, I don't know. Where scouts would go and speak to your dad. They'd come and speak to your dad. What they like at school. Do you think they'd be interested in coming to have a trial? So whenever I had any interest, they'd always go and speak to him. And obviously, a few people knew who he was. The Man United scout knew who he was.
So it has its pros and its cons.
Yeah, it has its pros and its cons.
Just like anything, but it's sad that to target someone even. When you look at the Terry Wogan interview, it was sad, and then but years later the apology, which is fair enough. Do you know what I'm saying? But back then, it was different because it was only media. Obviously, social media. When you go through, you get social media starting to pop up, but media was a totally different ballgame. When it was TV shows, you're talking over 20 million views. Do you think that can play a part in maybe a bit of lack of confidence with just the little news articles and the little digs? Obviously, you're thinking it's cool, you're in the papers, but it must play out a bit of psychology in it when it's little digs like that and you're thinking, fuck off.
Potentially. I think there was also the not wanting to let people down.
Did you feel as if you were letting your dad down?
Yeah, a bit. And not necessarily because that was, pressure from him. It was more that, obviously his career got stopped through no fault of his own. It got stopped through arthritis injury at 20 years old. He'd have had a long professional career, and whether he'd have played in the top division, I think he had interest from Cardiff when they were in the top division when he was about 18. But even then, a first team goalkeeper playing at 18 in the Football League is pretty rare. So for him to be doing that, he was clearly very well respected, and for that to just be taken away from him when through no fault of his own, I always felt that it was an opportunity for him to fulfil that through me. And I remember from a really young age, which he obviously did, trying to big me up, and I do the same with my son. I want them to believe they can do anything. And he used to say when I was like 10, 12, you can play in the Premier League at 18. You could play for England when you're 20, which some kids would have taken as that's a massive sense of belief from your parents, which is massive, especially as a young boy. You want your dad to believe in you, and I did feel that, and I felt like if I didn't achieve that, that would be letting him down, and also letting. In a sense, it sounds really, really deep, letting myself down, letting all the other kids down that wanted that and had the mindset to achieve it, but didn't necessarily have the physical ability that I had. I felt like you're letting them down. You had a massive opportunity and a massive gift that millions of kids would kill for, and you messed it up. Like we've seen recently, the anger at people directed at Marcus Rashford for the same principle. He's got the dream that all the kids aspire to, and he don't give a shit. I kind of felt like that I would be letting people down, and it's in a weird sense as well, probably letting the Isle of Wight down, because it would have been an opportunity to put it on the map and really make the local community proud. So I definitely felt a lot of pressure from all the angles as well.
Yeah, it's giving people hope in it. It's giving people that it can be done.
Yeah,
but it's putting the pressure on your shoulders. It's putting the whole world on your shoulders, and feeling as if you're going to let a parent down, I think, is one of the worst pressures you can achieve, because any slight mistake or any slight sadness, you just feel as if, I don't want to do it anymore. It's easier to walk away, I think.
Yeah, and I know that my dad had invested so much time and energy. He was writing tons of books, traveling the world, but whenever he was home, we would be out on the rec 2 or 3 evenings a week. He was investing so much time and energy and money in taking me to games and putting all that effort in training me that it felt like that needed to be repaid. Mm-hmm. And I think also looking back, what a big thing was, you see a lot of players that make it, but make it quite late. They get opportunities when they're 15, 16, 17, 18. and they just run with it. I think for me, because my opportunity at Portsmouth came so young, I first had a trial at under 9s, I think. Like the bar was there straight away, and all you could do was maintain it. Whereas I think if that opportunity maybe came for the first time when I was 14, 15, it would have been, maybe I'd have still been a bit hungrier and striving to get there. Whereas I think because that came so young, it felt like it's only downwards from here. And what a lot of players do, and a lot of players that I played with, if they don't quite make it at the top level, like at 16, you didn't quite cut it at Man United, well, you just dropped down then. You go and signed for Derby County in the Championship, or you went and played at Burton Albion in League One. Whereas I just stopped playing completely, just backed out.
I think once you get cut though, I think the confidence is completely gone that you're not good enough.
Yeah.
But you can drop down division.
Yeah,
There's
a lot of players
junior football at 18, which was tougher probably. But yeah, the football thing is weird. Dan Fletcher played a few games with us at Hibs, but he went on to sign for Man U, I think, at 15 or 16 for like 60 grand. But Fergie bought his mum that house. But he just looked like a talent. And then you see the way they grace the field. If there's better players than you, even not in your own position, you just think you're not going to make it because that gap's already filled. There's only going to be one person make it. So you think, nah, I've not got it anyway.
Well, he's a good example of like just hard work and mindset, because how he got a game in the team of Keane and Scholes and Butt.
Fergie loved him.
Hell of a team.
His twin sons now are captain England and Scotland, one each. His twin sons are captain in England and Scotland.
He's at United and he's a coach. Fletcher,
and his kids are captain in England and Scotland.
Yeah.
Fucking mad.
It's an amazing story. What was illness coming back from that as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Playing with that, How did your dad's... So how can you get... What happened with arthritis at 20? How did that kick in?
So rheumatoid arthritis is... so there's two types. You've got osteoarthritis, which is like degenerative. Most people get that. The older they get in life, as your joints get a bit more worn. And there's rheumatoid arthritis, which is... It's supposedly hereditary, but it doesn't seem to be. Hopefully not. Anyway, yeah.
Touch wood, mate.
But it basically just causes your joints to swell up. So for him, he was at Coventry City, and I think... from nowhere, his left knee just swelled up one morning, no explanation for it. Obviously got himself looked at. I think they originally, in those days, because the diagnostics weren't anywhere near as good, thought it was cartilage. So he had his cartilage out unnecessarily. They took that out thinking that will solve the problem. Obviously it didn't. So then they came back and were like, well, obviously it wasn't that then. I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it? And then gradually, bit by bit, became his wrists, his elbows, his fingers. Like if you look at his hands now, his hands like that, this joint's really swollen. So he carried on playing, went to Hereford United, which was the equivalent of the National League, so like semi-part-time. So he could cope with that. And then they got promoted first season. Then he's in the Football League, and again, you're training every day, and he just couldn't do it. He managed this season where he would explain you play on Saturday morning, and you couldn't really walk till Tuesday. You were in that much pain, especially as a goalkeeper, and the pitches in those days, you dive in your hips, your knees. It's just, it took a battering. So he ended up completely finishing at 21, I believe, with literally nothing to look forward to in the future. No, because he'd put all his eggs in that basket. He left school with no qualifications. He'd married my mum by this point, so they were living in Hereford with a mortgage, and contract cancelled. What are you going to do with your life? So that kind of one of the biggest traits that me and Gareth both got from him is that resilience. That you're staring down the coalface with the gun in your face. What are you going to do about it? And not giving up, being resilient. And it just took me a little bit longer to get that, I think, than it did for those guys. Like Gareth had lots of issues growing up with his health. Loads of issues with operations and stuff when he was a kid, on his eyes and his hips. So that resilience was built into him when he was really, really young. So, we used to joke, if you had his brain and my body as a teenager, you'd be England #1 for a decade. But it took me a little bit longer. It took me probably till my early 20s to get that same mindset.
Football's a very short-lived career.
It is.
Well. Yeah. It's goes. Looking back now at 41, I realise, because when you're young, my uncles used to say, just stay dedicated, whatever. But while they're saying stay dedicated, they're drunk with a fag in the mouth, telling me to stay dedicated. Yeah. But it's just so short-lived, and the years genuinely fly past. But that's the cards he's were dealt. Look at the amazing stuff your dad's done. Look at the amazing stuff that yous are doing now. Like, you can only leave the legacy and keep it going to try and keep speaking about the stuff he's speaking about. It's just mad how everything plays out. Would your dad be doing what he's doing now if he got those injuries. I don't.
No, it wouldn't
Possibly
be.
not. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, it wouldn't be. And same here. I mean, the only thing I look back on and think would have been amazing to have done that would have been when 2020 came. Imagine if you were England number one, the profile you'd have had, especially during that Euros that was obviously here, you could have made a stand. You could have had a real profile to say, what the fuck is this? What's going on? I'm not wearing a mask to walk into a game. I'm not having the vaccine. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. And it would have created some publicity. Kind of in the same way that Djokovic did by what happened in Australia. You could have said, I'll forego my England career to stand up for what I believe, which that would have been, I think, a benefit of having that position. Apart from that, I don't look back at all.
Position of power.
I wouldn't have met my wife because we just wouldn't have met. If I'd have moved to Manchester when I was 16 and I'd have played in the Premier League, I'd never have met my wife. Wouldn't have the kids I've got. So I wouldn't change any of it, to be honest. It's a life experience.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a journey. What happens then after you gave up football?
Yeah, so I kind of proper gave up and said, look, I don't want to do this. I'm done. When I was probably about 17. Played a few sort of semi-pro level stuff down in the south, and then went to college to study business and economics. And thought I've always wanted to do something entrepreneurial. And I was like that growing up, to be fair. A bit of like wheeling and dealing on stuff, buying and selling things and trying to figure out ways to earn some money. So I felt I'll go in and do that. Really with the long-term plan of getting involved in the business that we had, because my mum was 60 odd by this point and it had kind of been run in a certain way for a long time, and I thought if I can go and get some qualifications, a bit of understanding, I could try and take this to the next level. So I did that, and then so that was a couple of years. I moved up to Derby first time to just get off the island. And that was an amazing place to live at the time, because it was a city, but it didn't feel too big. So it wasn't like moving to central London where it was just insane noise, too intimidating for someone growing up from a small town. So it was perfect. And then ended up back on the Isle of Wight, which me and Gareth always joke, it's like a magnet, always brings you back. And then that's where I met my now wife, and took over the business from my mum. And then when she retired, the decision was made to move it up here. So me and Gareth was already in Derbyshire, set up shop in the Midlands. Geographically, centre of the country, you can pull from multiple cities of talent, and try and take it to the next level and build on it. So my interest when I first got involved was the events side. I used to love putting events on, conferences on. 2016, 2017, right up until the start of 2020. Me and Dad travelled the world, Australia, America, New Zealand, pretty much everywhere in Europe doing live events, which was amazing. When you're sat in like a little office somewhere on the Isle of Wight, to then go to Melbourne and have 3,000 people in a room was just incredible to see the reach and the excitement in different parts of the world about this information. All of that was pre-2020, so it's pre a real explosion in interest. And then funnily enough, right at the back end of 2018, I said, look, I feel with all this YouTube censorship, with all this shadow banning, deletion of people's ability to earn money from their content, this alternative media needs something. It needs a platform. It needs something that's owned by us. It's not owned by Google. It's not owned by another big corporation. So that's where the idea for Ickonic was born. And it took about a year to really formulate it. I remember sat with a friend of mine who's an entrepreneur, really wealthy guy that actually took the UK government to court over lockdown, a guy called Simon Dolan. I spoke to him about the idea and he was like, yeah, it won't work. No way.
Did they? I know.
So, and then, he said it. We said it. No, I don't think there's space for it. And I was pitching really for some sort of investment to help out. And he went just basically said something along the lines of, all the business plans I've been seeing that look the same as when they were written are still on the shelf. Most people that create something just start it, and this idea they had, they realise after a week, actually that won't work. We need to pivot and do something differently. And you just learn on the fly, and you just start something rather than talking about it, because you can sit and tweak and work on this idea and do all that for years and never actually just get something off the ground. You just got to get it off the ground and see what happens. So 7th of October 2019, we set up the business and we launched on the 5th of November 2019. Started quite well, a few hundred subscribers, and then come April 2020, everything changed. We went from about 1,000 subscribers at the end of March to just over 5,000 by the end of May, and just everything changed. Tiny little office in the centre of Derby that didn't have any heating, and you used to have to psych yourself up to go make a cup of tea. It was that cold. And now we've got, this building, 3 nice studios, big team, different parts of the world.
Staff.
So we got only a handful of people here, but we've got 2 people in America, another 3 people dotted around the UK, and people we work with right across the world. So it changed really overnight, and then it's built on that. From there, we're at just around 10,000 subscribers now.
Did you know how big your dad was growing up or getting into your 20s? Did you believe in the things it was saying, or do you think and just be quiet? Do you know what I'm saying? Could they switch? Because he spoke yesterday that he could. I says, how do you ever switch off, David? And he says, I can. He can, he'll say, he can. I've seen him. I've watched things. He's been on stage for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And it's no phased. It's not as if he's up or down or tired. Sometimes I can do interviews, and after an hour, 2 hours, you feel that you're drained.
Yeah.
But he says he can switch off. Could you see being a dad to then being David Icke? Did you see the switch?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, growing up for me, I think the football relationship we had, that was his switch off. That was his switch off for him. His release, where we'd go out and train for a couple of hours, a couple of times a week. That was like his. I think he even said that in a Channel 5 piece they did on him, that was like the backbone of his normal life, separated from it. So yeah, I mean, he does do that. We're still now, like, he comes and watches my sons play on a Saturday and a Sunday, and he'll come around usually on a Sunday to my house. We'll have dinner and watch the 4 o'clock game, whatever that is. So yeah, he definitely can switch off. But he can also talk for a very long, as you discovered yesterday, for a very long time.
But that's a good thing, because I said to him yesterday as well that he's been doing it over 30 years. I remember watching him. You're talking, started my journey maybe 10 years ago, and I was making changes. It was like him, Alex Jones. Who was the guy with the grey hair that used to do, like, it was like comedy mixed with it? He's passed away now. He used to, he was unbelievable. The American guy.
Oh, George Carlin.
Yeah, Carlin, unbelievable. So that was the kind of
Bill Hicks as well.
My guys, who just gravitated towards. But I says that's what I was saying yesterday. It just feels so trendy now.
Yeah,
that everybody wants to be a conspiracy theorist, because I know the majority of stuff comes true. Yes, we're going to get it wrong from time to time, but the majority of stuff is true. What these guys have been speaking for 30 years.
Yeah.
But it just seems, including myself, I'm guilty of this, repeating the same shite that other people have said without really being educated enough to actually speak it. It just feels good for me, and I feel as if we're in a time now that's generating views where everybody's jumping on it and not really knowing what's going on.
Yeah, I agree. It's trendy. It's trendy for a lot of people. But what the key is, I think, with it is if you don't know that, if you haven't done the research, understanding the context of something. So you can point out that, this is happening and it's bad. And that's one thing, but why is it happening? And it's not incompetence by a couple of MPs. It's a carefully planned agenda that lines up with this and this and this. I think a lot of people that are new to it miss that. And because it's quite trendy, people jump in and go 0 to 60 without doing the groundwork to really understand what the plot is. Because if you don't understand what the deeper agenda is, you look at, to simplify the analogy, if you try and unpack the game plan of a football team without understand, you're just going, the striker keeps doing this, but you don't understand how what the striker's doing complements what the midfielders are doing, how the defence have set up. You're not going to understand the game plan, and you're never going to beat it. And I think it's the same principle with this. If you just look at every world event, every speech, every change of policy as an isolated event that appears disconnected from what may have gone before, you're never going to understand the world. You're never going to get to that point of being ahead of it, where you can start to predict what's coming next, and you can start to call out what you think is going to come next based on what's gone before, which I think that's why he has got the credibility he has, because he said things years ahead of time by doing the groundwork, doing the research, and understanding that, okay, this is happening now, but it's designed to go here. So in order for that to happen, a lot of stuff in the middle has to happen. And if nothing gets in the way, it's going to happen. So what we're seeing at the moment with this sort of stars aligning for World War III, he wrote about that in the 90s because it was the plan. And everything that's happened geopolitically in the last 5 years has been putting the pieces in place to make that a reality. Whereas a lot of other people that are new to it will come out and go, look, why are we giving all this money to Ukraine? It makes no sense. It's like, well, no, it doesn't make any sense if you look at it when the countries giving them money, like the UK, have got tons of problems at home. Look after those people first. You can look at it on that level and think it's confusing and not understand it. Whereas when you know the outcome they want, it's easy to make sense of. So I think that's where a lot of the newcomers to the alternative media need to have a bit of humility of, actually there's a lot of people that have researched deeper than you about why things are happening. So just maybe do a bit of reading before you start saying, I've worked it out, this is the plan, that's why this is happening. Because there's always, like everything, there's always one reason that they'll tell you, and there's always the real reason behind. And unless you do the research, you're only going to get that one. So, people look at Trump's tariffs and go, okay, well, that's going to try and bring jobs back to America and, reduce Chinese influence on the manufacturing industry in the States. Okay, that's one way of looking at it. Another one is it takes them closer to a trade war. It creates a trade war, creates global chaos, creates people apprehensive about whether they can spend money on this or that because they don't know what something's going to cost tomorrow. Also brings those two countries closer to a hot conflict. So, but most people don't look at that deeper meaning or research behind something to therefore be able to say, this is the real reason this is happening.
Yeah, because David was saying yesterday, obviously Trump's first 4 years in power, he never had any wars. Apparently the first president to do so, but now it's all changed. Now he's dropping bombs.
Well, yeah, he's not got to get re-elected, is he? Unless they change the law and he tries to get elected again. But second terms are normally always the ones where the things are accelerated further along.
The destruction.
Because they've not got to get re-elected. So,
do you think between Ukraine and Russia is the start of World War III?
I think there's multiple aspects to it. I think what you're seeing in Israel, where just poking the Islamic world and poking Iran, I think there's lots of potential ways it could kick off. China and Taiwan, if that kicks off, what will NATO and the US do there? I think it's all aligned. It was written about a long time ago. I've heard of Albert Pike and the 3 letters. That Albert Pike was a Freemason who had 3 letters written about the 3 world wars, and these letters were discovered after the first 2 world wars. So the validity of them kind of relies on what it was said about the 3rd World War. But it described the first 2 in detail and accurate to what actually happened. But it described the 3rd as basically East versus West. Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and maybe a couple of other chucked in, basically against the West and against NATO. And all of those things I've just described, whether it's Ukraine, Russia, whether it's Israel against Iran, and whether it's Taiwan against China, they all line up with that. Because those 3 are aligned politically now through the BRICS movement. They're obviously aligned militarily and economically. So if the US went and attacked Iran today, Russia and China would come out in support. And then you've got your world war. Because those countries know that if one goes, they all go. China borders a large proportion of Russia, doesn't it?
I think China and Russia is the strong forces. Yeah. I don't think UK's not got a chance.
I don't think we're meant to win this one. I think that's the thing. Because if you look at what's the easiest way to change the world to how you want it, which is the society that's closest to the world they want is China. Social credit system, facial recognition technology everywhere, incredible control by the state over every aspect of people's lives. Well, what if there's a conflict, they win and they just impose that across the rest of the world? Easiest way to do it.
But that's going to get imposed anyway. Is everybody in cahoots? So obviously we talk about UK and America, but is there people, your dad was saying yesterday, it's a cult within a cult. Are they controlling the whole world or just the West?
No, I think it's
all connected. They all sit at the dinner table and say, okay, they've got power over every country, but it just obviously divides it all, so it looks as if people have got a say. But is it all connected, or is it the West via the other side?
Yeah, I don't think it's disconnected at all. I don't think you need to control every single country and every single politician. You just need to control the countries that matter in terms of global influence. And I think country borders are very much for the benefit of us. They're not real when it comes to an agenda behind it. So you take the US and China. They're supposedly arch enemies, as the battle for the superpowers of the world, and the new world order where power's moving east. But then when it comes to the subject of artificial intelligence, their top universities exchange thousands of research papers so that they are all on the same page when it comes to that technology. If they were real enemies and it was a real race between East versus West to get the best of that technology, they wouldn't do that. That doesn't make any sense. And when it comes to things like, Israel's a good one when it comes to what's happening there. They're all aligned. None of them are calling out what they're doing. They're all on the same page when it comes to those subjects. So I think, behind the shadows, behind the governments, behind the people you see in positions of apparent elected power, they are influenced. Whether they're all 110% controlled, they're certainly influenced. I think his phrase of, led by psychopaths, run by idiots is a pretty good one. Like, you only got to look at that. Look at this country. Look at that Labour front bench. There's some moronic characters in there. I mean, I don't think it would take anyone much time to convince David Lammy to do something.
How does the UK, from one of the strongest nations, invaded over 90% of the world, become one of the weakest? It is an absolute turmoil. The taxes are through the roof, crimes through the roof,
Yeah.
the immigration's through the roof. How does it become such a mess? Do you think that's planned behind that to make it a mess because maybe it will get invaded, maybe it will start getting bombed? I genuinely don't know myself, but why has it become an embarrassment? Why is people talking about it all around the world, how shit it is? I think over 10,000 millionaires have also left the UK. Like, it is becoming a bit of a joke.
Well, if you were trying to destroy a country, you wouldn't do much different to what's been done here in the last couple of decades. Across all those areas you just mentioned, whether it's socially, economically, you mentioned defence, all those things, the control of the borders, they've just been completely destroyed. The attacks on, I'm not a religious person at all, but the attacks on Christianity, which you'd say this country would traditionally be a Christian country, it's clear they're trying to destroy the West. And the same sort of things are happening in America in certain areas as well. And I think a lot of it is down to, if you don't have a sense of national pride, national identity. I mean, I'm not a patriot, I'm not a nationalist. I always say I feel very fortunate to have been born in England, given where you could have been born. In some parts of the world, it's given me opportunities that I wouldn't have had if I was born in Gaza, for example. So I'm very thankful for that. But I don't identify as, I'm British and therefore kick them all out. That sort of, right-wing person. I don't identify as that. But I do think wherever you're born in the world, the culture you're born into, a sense of pride, a sense of national identity is really, really important, because it's what makes you look after the place. It's what makes you have pride in where you live. You look after the streets, you want to keep the streets safe, look after the people around you, take care of your elders, all those sorts of things are the values that you cherish. It's about, but that has been destroyed in so many different ways. One, by attacking anyone that has that ideology is racist. You can't, you hold a Union Jack up, you're a racist. That's, in a lot of cases. Obviously, immigration is a massive factor. It's diluted a lot of that. Particularly in the cities, most of the cities are now white minorities, which I think's definitely had a factor on the change of culture. And also, I think the attacks on young people, like the young men in particular, you're basically the lowest of the low. Young straight white men, you're worthless, you're nothing. To the point that they're even putting in government policy, which obviously got overturned, to target young white men in prisons, in terms of they get a less chance of a parole than others. And they do worse in schools than minorities and others. So it's clear there's an attempt to destroy the country. And I think, given Britain has this kind of, probably wrongly given what it's done over the years, but it has this sense of sort of moral superiority, that we're the world's, we do things right. We've got a healthy democracy where everyone has a say and there's equality and there's all of that. I think if that nation gets destroyed and that sense of that gets destroyed, all of a sudden you're a lot more open to being completely taken over, which is what we've seen. It's what we've seen, taken over in many ways.
I feel as if through lockdown, all this, everybody, a lot of people did waking up to, this ain't normal. People buying pots and pans and thinking, support the NHS and listen. I get that people thought they were genuinely doing it, but you're basically celebrating being locked in, can't leave, and people are buying toilet paper. And it was just, when you actually look at it, it's absolute madness how it was accepted. People couldn't go and watch their wife give birth, or loved ones dying alone. Like, it is heartbreaking to think the hospitals weren't packed. We all know this now. And obviously with the vaccine and the madness, but it's absolute, when I think about it, it is laughable. But I genuinely know people were scared. But with everybody kind of waking up to it all, I feel as if we were on the right path to ask the questions and maybe start a revolution because if people actually knew what was going on, they would hit the streets and go, nah, something needs to change. It ain't normal. But I just feel, even with the Donald Trump thing, people think he's a saviour, he's saying the right things. But he was all for the lockdown, and he was great friends with Jeffrey Epstein, and it just feels as if he's another plant for people to buy into it, and then they forget what these people actually are and who they are, and don't forget why you started questioning things. Don't forget what they've done with lockdown. Don't forget the business that have closed. Don't forget the mental health, the rise in mental health, the rise in addiction. Don't forget what these people actually done. So just because they're on the TV and they're singing from the hymn sheet that you think's correct, you've got to question why they're saying the things. It's just as if they're trying to get agreements, because the majority of people believe that everything is a set-up. People believe that they're all corrupt. So why do we then support people in politics? It puzzles my mind.
Yeah, I think it's a human disease of wanting someone else to save you. I think there's that. And I think, I disagree with a lot of people in the alternative media. A lot of people think that COVID was their attempt to like sprint for the line, and because of the pushback, they couldn't get everything they wanted across. I actually think it was their test run. I think it was their way of finding out where their weaknesses were. And one of them is that the alternative media had a big influence. Hence why, like you said, so many people woke up, so many people were starting to question, so many people were calling out various different aspects of it, whether it be the lies of politicians, the manipulation, the psychological abuse people had. And I think the reason so many people fell for it is because when you're scared, all rationale just goes. It's just, come on, help me, save me. And, people were scared shitless, hence why they had behaviour psychologists doing the lockdown protocols. They didn't have virologists, it was psychologists. And that was because they wanted to obviously garner a certain type of response from people, which is fear. Because when you're scared, you give your power away invariably. When it got to the point that people started to realise, actually, there isn't a killer virus everywhere, I'm going to question a few of the things I've been told in the last 18 months, that's when it all fell apart for them. But since then, you're right, absolutely. Trump, Operation Warp Speed, he still claims that's his greatest achievement and still does to date. But people just seem to have cognitive dissonance with it. They just completely forgot all of that because he started saying a few things that you might agree with, about, men shouldn't compete in women's sports, things like that wasn't controversial 5 years ago, 10 years ago. All of a sudden, they forget everything that he's done previously. They forget that Musk has tons of companies that all are furthering the artificial intelligence, electric car type agenda. Forget all of that because they want to put their faith in the saviour. And for me, all that is doing is just buying them more time because nothing's actually going to change. I mean, how many things were claimed in that election run-up? RFK was going to come in and make America healthy. What's he done? Has the vaccine been suspended? Are they doing the look into the MMR jabs that were apparently going to happen and the health of kids versus kids unvaccinated? Not done any of it. It was all just a sham. And
I believed in him as well. I liked him.
Yeah,
I thought he was fit, he's healthy.
He's done a lot of work over the years.
And I thought, he's the one. I never thought he would get in because I thought he was for the people. But like you say, nothing's changed. I think because Donald Trump stopped the immigration and stopped the transgender men can't compete in women's sport, that's enough. Okay, we're doing great. He's the man. We need somebody like him in the UK.
Yeah. They're
all fucking working together. They're all just actors. He's been on The Simpsons, Home Alone. He's an actor. He's just reading from a script. I think is it Dominic Cummings?
Yeah.
Who used to work with Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
He just done an interview and says when they're walking into Downing Street with their little briefcase and their papers, it's already been planned.
Yeah,
they're looking in there for a discussion. They've already planned what they're going to tell you to then believe it. Sometimes it's planned 10, 20, 30 years down the line.
Yeah, it is.
And everybody's waiting outside to hear the news and waiting. Fuck the government. Don't wait for these people to tell you how to live your life. Go and live your life. But again, like you say, it was psychologists who created the fear-mongering. If you ask the majority of people why they got the jab,
fair.
I needed to work.
Holiday.
I had to go to work. I have to travel. No, you don't. No. Fucking wait. Yeah. And then 6 months later, 12 months later, anybody can travel anyway.
Yeah.
But it is, and I understand the majority of human beings are good. They want to do the right thing. And now with the peer pressure, because I was posting my photos up in the mountains and the shit that I got, my followers went down. They went down, but I'm thinking, fuck this, who cares? I'm thinking, I'm not harming anyone. I'm away from everybody, but people thought, and I understand it as well, because I did question, what if I'm wrong?
Yeah.
Many times I thought, what if I'm wrong? Because of the pressure from the outside noise, you do hear it enough and see it enough, you think, okay, I'm going to break. Thankfully, I never. But over
lot of people
90% of the world did it, man.
A lot of people did. And what I find the saddest part of it is all the people that have had the jab and have had vaccine injuries, as far as they were believing and the system has told them, they did the right thing. They did what they were told to do. Even many of them that wouldn't have wanted to, but they did it because of, like you said, work or travel or whatever. They did what they believed to be right. A lot of people would have had it to because they thought they were protecting their children or protecting their elderly, vulnerable relatives. They're the ones that have had the injuries. They're the ones that have had their lives destroyed and lost lives. Whereas the likes of us that went, no way. We haven't had any of that. And I kind of find that, it sounds really strange to say, but I find that actually more sad than a lot of it, where, it's proof that you can't comply your way out of a tyranny. Because all those people did was comply. They did what they were told, and they've still got fucked over.
That's a sad thing. The turbo cancers, the rise in heart
Yeah.
attacks, the girls who are having miscarriages, like the rises in so many different
it's insane.
things. And the numbers they're not even telling us. I don't know if I'm paranoid or I'm what it is, but when I walk along the streets are fucking empty.
Yeah.
They're empty. I don't know if majority of people have fucking died or whatever, but I don't see the way the streets used to be.
No, people just look like zombies as well.
Yeah,
like
zoned out.
Like the phrase non-player characters in video games, where they just don't have any ability to deviate from their path. It's that you see that with a lot of people. Like, you just look at people, you look them in the eyes when you're chatting to them. It's like the lights are on, but no one's home. Everyone's gone out, and it's it's really sad to see how much a lot of people, as well as the jab, were just psychologically broken. They're just terrified now. Stick the news on, whatever the story is, they're terrified about it. It's the fact that there's not a good few people in jail as a result of that by now is disgusting. And I think the fact they've just tried to sweep it under the carpet, and you've now got a prime minister in this country that wanted lockdowns even more and wanted to push for vaccine passports and things like that on a more severe scale than the Tories did, and people have just forgotten it. It's just, it's absolutely messed up.
Yeah, it's crazy. When you actually, James Corden, he done an advert.
Oh God,
he was dancing about with umbrella.
Yeah, him and Ariana Grande, wasn't it? With the
he should be in the
hairspray.
jail for that. Like, that is, listen, they're taking money. A lot of people might not think. Even Taylor Swift and her new man, they took like 10 million or whatever, but the amount of lives they've destroyed by promoting that. And I was a big fan of a man called, is it Sadhguru? Indeed, man, he just spoke so much sense when I listened to him, and I thought he's the one I could listen to. But yeah, he was promoting the jab as well. And
a lot of them are.
It fucking broke my heart. But then you question, are they just gullible and think they're also doing the right thing? But if you're free spirit and open-minded about nature and love and life, then you should be asking the questions what you're putting into your body. And that's what people used to say, oh, you can't get the jab and you've took drugs all these years. Yeah, but it was my fucking choice. I took drugs.
True. And what I don't get with people is, if you, especially like you described there, someone who's quite spiritual, they know that the system is broken in certain aspects, and they know they've been lied to about certain things, but then but they're definitely telling me the truth about this. I don't get it. It's like having a partner that has an affair. Someone then says 5 years later, oh, she's done it again. You're not going to go, no. You're going to go, well, she's done it before. I'm going to at least find out if this is true or not. Whereas so many that look at the system, and whatever level it be, whether it's health, whether it's political, whether it's any of them, and go, yeah, so much corruption, there's so many lies, but they're definitely telling me the truth about this, when there's so much money in it for them, and the propaganda was so strong. I just don't understand how you can think like that. I don't get it. And the money that people were paid is just, that's tantamount to a war crime, in my opinion, because it was a war. It was psychological warfare they put down on people, and anyone that took money to just promote it, for me, they belong in a jail. They belong in a jail cell.
That's why I love Djokovic.
Yeah,
Stood his ground.
He stood his ground. Yeah,
I'm not playing your tournament. Then I decide what I put in my body. Like, he was the only kind of figure in the sports industry to do so.
Yeah,
at that level. The rest all crumbled. The rest all gave him shit. The rest all spoke shit. And there's a lot of people who wouldn't have got it, but never had the balls to speak about it, which is understandable as well. It's your sponsorship, it's your life, but it's also humanity. Yeah. Because people would listen to just go, I'm not taking it, just question it. You've made it within a year.
Yeah.
Who's behind that? If Bill Gates is behind it, who the fuck is he to be saying anything? Exactly. Fauci. Is it Fauci?
Yeah.
What he was saying, what he done. Like, it's absolutely mad. This is a James Corden advert. He's saying thank you if like it's so
embarrassing.
cringe and so scripted. When you actually look at it, it is laughable.
Yeah.
But then again, the destruction is caused. It's not laughable because the amount of lives that have lost, the amount of loved ones who are just passing away and are signing it off. Oh, yeah, it was something else. Or somebody got hit with a bus, but because they had COVID the
2
week
weeks
before,
ago,
they signed it off as a COVID death.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a balance with the people that have public profiles that didn't have it, but either paid for fake passports, which I know a few people that did, or just didn't say anything. Like, I don't know if you remember the start of the Premier League. It would have been, I think, 2022, when a lot of clubs go to America for pre-season tours, where at the time you still had to have the jab to go to America. You saw a lot of players mysteriously have little muscle injuries and not go on the tour. Well, won't name any names, but I know a good 3 or 4 who weren't vaccinated who didn't go, but didn't say that. They didn't go because, they've got a little injury, a little niggle, they're going to stay at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think if you just stood and made a bit of a stand with the influence you've got, especially with, something like the Premier League, where it's quite a young demographic, you could have reached an audience that maybe the alternative media hasn't been able to. And, the teenage lads in school and girls in school that were debating it, that were having peer pressure and everyone was getting it, so I will as well. Or were being advised by their parents without looking into it themselves. They could have influenced a lot of that group.
But they're scared to, even with the rainbow fucking armbands.
Yeah.
Harry Kane, like,
I know.
keep all that shit away from football. Keep politics away from football. Just let
100%.
people play football. Why does it need to be take a knee or wear a rainbow armband? Or who fucking cares? Let it, keep your shit away from sports. But to make a stand, they don't, because they all crumble because of the backlash. And the majority of people are in favour for it. But it's just because of the control of the media. It then target you. It feels as if it's actually bigger than what it is. Now, what's sexual? Look at the Olympics opening ceremony.
Yeah.
It's fucking one of the most satanic things I've ever seen in my life. You've got drag queens cutting up and down the stage, men with their balls out and beards. Like, what are you doing? What are we promoting? Like, it's messy. But then you look at Michelle Obama, who people say it's a man. You look at Macron, who's the French president's wife, who's allegedly transgender. Like, nobody fucking cares. But if these people are in power, they are promoting a narrative to then create all this madness from the transgender side of things. And now, OnlyFans is becoming a massive distraction to mankind as well. But listen, the majority, it wouldn't be so popular if men weren't buying it yet. But you look at the ages of America, it's from the ages of 18 to 24, 10% of girls from that age group are on OnlyFans, over 10%.
That's mental.
Millions of people from the ages of 10 to 24. It's unbelievable, the age group and what it's doing to life. Because what it does is, it does something to your soul.
Yeah.
You're selling a part of your soul. I had Jennifer Ellison on, girl from Liverpool, stunning, back in the day in Brookside, great girl. But she got offered Playboy back then, $500,000, and you're talking nearly 20 years ago, and rejected it. And says, because she never had kids at the time, but she says if I had kids, they'll see that, and I don't want them to be going through schooling and this and that. And unbelievable. If majority of people could think like that, but they don't, because they think money's the get out. They think money's what takes the pain away, not realising the destruction it's going to cause for your kids. A young kid just last year, I think he was 9 or 10 years old, took his own life because there was a pictures getting passed around to his mum. Like, have some fucking self-respect. But it's difficult as well, because I interview enough OnlyFans girl porn stars, male and female, to understand they are broken. They come from broken homes of abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, and they think that is their girl. Now, that is their bodies. I don't see the issues in them. I see the issues in the men who are paying for it. Same as the girl Bonnie Blue, slept with over 1,000 men. No issues with her. I've got issues with the 1,000 men who stood outside to shag her. That's 1,000 men putting their dick in the same girl, one after each other.
Do you think that's real, though?
Yeah.
Do you think they actually
did? It's fucking real. It's real. They think they get 2 minutes each. I had that OnlyFans girl on, Rebecca, nice girl. She was saying, they just queue out outside. We put a video out. But you don't know who these men are.
No, you don't.
Paedophiles, rapists. There's not a, give me your background. All they're showing is ID. They could be anybody.
Jesus, man.
And over 1,000 men. But this is a scary thing, because I said to that girl, back in the day, you've got page 3, you've got a set of tits, but people are calling her a slag.
Yeah.
Cow, Playboy, set of tits. You think, oh, dirty women, slags. Porn back in the day, it was a guy with a moustache coming in and fixing the washing machine. But nowadays, the standards are sleeping with over 1,000 men. How are we're normalising this? And that's where, as humanity, we get lost, because we're then looking at these things and thinking, okay, where can I go next to compete with that and beat that and beat this world record? What happened to the old-fashioned fucking missionary position that was done? Do you know what I'm saying? And I understand men are lonely, men have needs. Majority of men are virgins. The majority of men feel unknown in this world. Nobody looks at them. You ever approach a girl, you're called a creep. Yeah. So it is difficult, and everybody's scared to speak to each other now. Everybody's getting filmed. Everybody's getting set up. Everybody's getting ridiculed online. And if men are wanting to speak to women and pay for it, by all means do it. But there's a disconnection with life. There's a disconnection that's very low vibrational, and it's just, we're just putting out this poison, and we're becoming lost as a society. Yeah, we are. I think what was I said earlier about like the destruction of a society, destruction of the family is a massive part of that. And you know, I remember when I was at school, you still used to ask people out. You still used to chat to people in bars. If you wanted someone's number, you still used to meet through friends, things like that. Now it's all on dating apps. Like, I remember when Tinder first came out. I think I was probably about 19. And it was just bizarre. I never got it, never got the concept of it. Now, everything is through apps. Like you said, you approach a girl in a bar, you call a creep. Not that I've done that for a good decade, but and the thing is as well, through those apps, is you can completely change who you are. You can, you know, when you used to chat to somebody, you used to think of what you're going to say off the cuff, and it was all natural. Now you can rewrite that message 20 times. It's not the real you. You can use fucking ChatGPT to work out what the best chat line is, which I guarantee these people are doing. So then you end up building up a persona between somebody that's not real, and then you meet them and it's not how you've made it, because you're not actually the person you've kind of created for yourself. So there's a lot of that goes on. And also, I think there's so many attacks on, you know, the family in general, really, and young men. Like, I was having this chat with somebody earlier in the week. For young men, the incentive to get married and have a family now is nothing, for so many different reasons. One being that the family courts, the way that's set up, the way that things are skewed massively in the favour of women, where, you know, young men can have a child and end up paying for the rest of their lives without even seeing their kids. Like, we had a guest in here last week who was taking a case against the CMS in this country, saying that 4 million dads in the UK don't see their kids. Like, you think about the population of the country and the people that would be in that age range that would have kids as men. How many are choosing not to see their kids? Well, some of it will be that, and some of it will be, you know, the system is very much skewed towards. Because I'm going through the family courts now. I'm nearly 40 grand in 18 months. 40 grand in 18 months to try and see my son. It is an absolute fucking joke. Yeah, well, that's part. And they tell me it's fair. Yeah, men get a fair shout. I can fucking tell you now they don't. No, because any allegation or whatever is against the man. Yeah, the man has to tell them, fight that it's not true, and even then, the women still get the son. Yeah, I've had the court order, goalposts get moved again, and every time I'm going, it's $4,000. Basically, you've got barrister fees, lawyer fees. I've got to travel, hotels, time off work, time away from my family as well. So it's also the mental blockage. Yeah. This does something to your mind. You're thinking, what the fuck is going on? And it's also caused other shit to happen. I'm thinking, all this because I want to see my son. Yep. It is madness, and it's definitely not fair that they can say it's fair, but they treat you like a fucking, like a terrorist. They treat you, I've got somebody, I'm paying to be there and somebody's trying to assassinate my character. Yeah. All because I want to see my son. I'm having to defend it and justify. And I'm thinking, this is a fucking joke. Yeah. It's disgusting what happens. And I think kids are used, probably more so by women than men, but definitely by men as well, as like bargaining chips. Where for me, like me and my wife, we said from early days before we had kids, like whatever happens between us, when we have children, our kids are half of each other. So they'll always come above any personal animosity we might have for each other. And as long as you're a good mum and I'm a good dad, it doesn't really matter what's happened between us. I want them to always have their mum in their life, and vice versa. And hopefully it doesn't ever come to that. But I think that that's so important. But for most, you know, parental dynamics, it's not like that. They use this bargaining chip. A lot of bum dads out there who don't want to see their kids. There is a lot of them, yeah. I'm very family oriented. Everything I do is for my family, so it's difficult when you're having to fight against the system, which I know is flawed anyway. They want you to throw mud at each other,
Yeah, they
so
do.
they can just drain the cash out you.
Yeah.
They want it to go. One day, it was a no contact case, meaning one day a no contact case, meaning I'm getting to see my son no matter what, because I've no bad history or previous or any other shit. It's just accusations that an ex has made. You need to fucking fight it, which I won. They got the grant, they got the court order, moved the goalpost again, fuck all get done, but you need to come back to court, pay another $4,000. And I'm thinking, you're just taking the cunt. And that's the sad thing, because like we says, there's a lot of bum dads, but there's a lot of dads out there who want to fight for the kid, because I know the state of the world. Kids need their dad.
They do.
Kids need a strong role model. I don't always get it right, but I'm a human being. But the rise in suicide, addiction, over 85% of people in prisons have grew up without a father.
Yeah.
I just want to give my kids the best opportunity and the best life that I can from the things that I've learned. And like I said, I don't always get it right, but my dad, I can learn from it, grow from it, and become better. And I just want my kids to have that, you can achieve anything and go for it, and try and give them that push. Like, we're becoming in a very weak society, and we're becoming so lost is who we're meant to be. I believe in the family life. I believe in the housewife. I believe the man should provide and protect.
Same.
I believe it's not a case of a housewife and you're not doing fuck all. It's like, I believe in the nurture. I believe the woman's energy controls the energy in the house. And if you're taking the pressure away from the woman, I believe the woman can be her true self. And I believe women become their best versions when they become a mother.
Yep.
I believe that's the true source of what a woman should be, and that's my opinion.
Yep.
Obviously the feminists will hate that, but that's fucking down to you. But I just feel as if the man should provide and protect, be home, have your dinner, love, family time, holidays, and plan a life, and just have that unity, have that strength, and have that little tribe.
Yeah.
Now it's all broken. Now majority of white women in the UK are single, in their 30s, want to be boss ladies and be in that feminine role. That's not going to work.
No,
you can't
it's not.
have both feminine energies. Men and women have both masculine and feminine, but the men are becoming so feminine.
they
The
are,
men
yeah.
are becoming weak.
Soy
The men are
boys.
becoming fucking soft. And look after yourself. Be strong. Be independent as well, where you can achieve these things, because everything is a whole. You've got to become the whole, which is difficult. Men and women need each other. And I always say this: the universe revolves around women. They are the fucking true essence. They are the true source. But the men always build it now. We've got Taylor Swift singing "Fuck the Patriarchy," and you're thinking, what the fuck? The stage you're singing on, men built that. The stadium you're singing in, men built that. Who built that microphone? The car that you drive, the private planes that you fly. Who's the pilot? Like, don't be singing shit like that when it's men who built the world. Women create it, and I believe men build it. But we're living in a society where we can't speak about out that, or you're a fucking bad bastard.
You are. Well, I think the system has convinced women that having a career is going to be more fulfilling than everything you just said, than nurturing, than having a family, than that. It's done a hell of a job of propaganda convincing women they need to be in an office 8 hours a day. They need to have this high-flying career, and that's going to fulfill you more than raising another life. When that's why I think so many women get to their 40s, miss the boat, and are depressed, because they've realised, actually, I've been completely sold a dream that's fake. That family life, that family dynamic, that is what biologically I think we're hardwired to want. And I agree completely. Like, when we had kids, it was very much like, if you want to work, fine, but I don't want you to have to if you don't want to. And we're lucky, we homeschool our kids. And I made it like an absolute point that I want to be able to do that, not just for our kids, but also for her, because everyone's going to benefit from that. The whole dynamic of the family is going to benefit from that. And I know that's not reality for most people, because of the way the system is, with both parents having to work and, you know, to probably have the same level of life or less than 30 years ago, one of you could have worked. But I think the family dynamic is so important. Strong male role model for boys and girls, but particularly young boys at the moment, because they're so disengaged, so disenfranchised. That's why the likes of, you know, Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson, people like that have got such an influence, because they've identified there is a problem. I mean, I don't agree with a lot of what either of them say. Some of it I do, but a lot of it I don't. But they've identified that there is a massive gap where young lads are thinking, what's the point? What is the point? Whether it be, you know, the situations you were talking about where young lads want to see their kids, they're working hard to provide, but they still don't get to. Or whether it's just you're told at 18, yeah, you're never going to aspire to anything, you're never going to amount to anything, there's no jobs. You know, frontline in Ukraine's the only thing you've got to look forward to, son. That it's just completely disengagement. And the big thing, I remember Jordan Peterson's talked about it years ago as well, how important it was for women to have strong men around, because what kind of partner do you want? You know, whenever, if something kicks off, I guarantee if a guy walks into this room with a gun and there's a load of feminists in here, they're going to want me or you to get up and do something about it. So they still want that. So I think, you know, it's like you said, both energies need to work together. They built this narrative where it's men versus women. It's got to be men and women together. We both have different attributes. We both have different things to offer to the world and to children. And if we just, you know, put that together in a melting pot, if you like, of the nurturing energy of the women, the sort of can-do, provider, protector attitude of a man, if that's together, that family dynamic's amazing. And you're going to create balanced boys and girls as a result. You're going to have girls that know their worth and are not going to want to aspire to be Bonnie Blue. They're going to know their worth, and they're going to know how they should be treated as a woman by seeing how their dad's treated their mum. Vice versa, I want my boys to know how to treat women from seeing how I treat their mum. Show kids what a healthy dynamic and a healthy marriage, healthy relationship can be like, rather than this sort of fake, you know, I don't need a man. Well, who built the car you're driving? Like you said,
Yeah, it's sad.
it's just this division that's just
Because
not
you see these
necessary.
videos now where girls getting asked, do you need men? They're saying no.
Yeah.
But what if you've got a fire in the house? Who's coming through your door to save you? As the fireman. If you've got ghosts in your house, you've got the fucking Ghostbusters. They're men. Like everything, we're complicating things. Men and women need each other.
Doing absolutely
And going through life, if you've got friends or family and they meet a girlfriend or a boyfriend, you see how happy they are. That's when you see people at their best, when they're in a relationship that they love. But the only problem is we don't keep working at it. Relationships are painful.
They're
not easy. It's not a case, oh, I love them, I'll do this. You've got to grow together. You've got to understand life. You've got to be each other's peace, be each other's comfort. A man doesn't want to come home and he's getting a fucking sore head.
No, it
You
doesn't.
know what I'm saying? The pressure of the outside world. Like, men, we don't speak about the feelings of what's going on. We just kind of deal with it, pick up our fucking shit and crack on to the next day. We've got to keep providing. We've got to remain strong, because we know women's emotions are fucking all over the place. I've got my mother, my sister, my daughter, and it's a fucking whirlwind. Sometimes I'm thinking, what the fuck have I just walked into? And I would die for these people. I love them so much, but fuck me, they can do my head in. Like anything, like girlfriends, like your boyfriend or whoever it is, we got to work at it to learn to grow and go, okay, that's my person. Love is not just a case of loving that person and accepting them. You've got to really accept their flaws. You've got to really put the work in and try and go, okay, I love this person for who I am, and see the flaws. But we're living in a society where it's just all conflict.
It is. And I think what's important as well, if you look at social media, look at all the relationships on there, you look at all the reality TV shows, you know, your Towies, your Made in Chelseas, all of those, Married at First Sight, those ridiculous ones. There's not a healthy relationship that we just described in any of them. It's all drama, it's all conflict, it's all bitchy, it's all affairs, it's all someone shagging someone's mate. And people are looking at that as that's normal. And it's, you know, my relationship's not got this drama. It's obviously not normal. And, you know, we've had, me and Beth had conversations about it where if you're watching that and you're kind of thinking that's normal, all you're going to have is, you're going to have that in your life. You know, that traditional, healthy family where everyone loves each other. But yeah, you agree, you have disagreements. Of course you do. You know, I would strangle at times and vice versa, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, there's that love and that respect that always gets you through it. Whereas there's no role models of that in the mainstream media, mainstream television, popular culture, whether that be music industry, films that you see coming out. It's all degenerative to that dynamic.
Well, you look at Disney.
Yeah.
Every Disney character was raised by a stepmom, stepmother, grandparent.
How many times does the dad
uncle.
die as well in Disney films?
Yeah, the mother, they've never been raised in a stable household. And people might think, well, that's a bit far-fetched. But if you actually look at it, you're programming the kids to it's normality, same as the Bonnie Blue stuff. It becomes normal. And it can waken a lot of people up to say, I don't want to be that as well. But you look at all these things, because kids listen more to their friends and their teachers.
Yeah, they do.
My daughter's homeschooled. My daughter was in private school and someone was identifying as a fucking cat. And the headmaster let her take a litter box into school.
Oh,
and I think, fuck off.
Yeah, no.
I was getting shit because I was saying, listen, I'm not accepting this.
You're paying for that
I'll
as well.
fucking expose this. And I was the bad guy. I'm thinking, no. So my daughter's now she's thriving. And I always believed in fuck the system anyway. But also used to think, but it's interacting with our kids and it's...
Yeah.
Then again, your kids are putting your hand up for the toilet. And if you don't agree with the teachers, you're a bad student.
Yes.
My kid's doing Muay Thai now, acting, singing. She's fitter than she's ever been, thriving because she's got her own mind and she's listening from her father.
Yeah.
It's not some random teacher who I don't know who the fuck is who's teaching my kids.
Yeah.
I don't have their background checks. I don't know if they're a fucking paedophile. I've interviewed enough people now. I'm questioning every teacher, male and female, from nursery to primary school to the soccer coach. I'm questioning fucking everybody now. I'm thinking, what's his tendencies like? How's his energy? Because I don't know who's around my kids, and I'm maybe become too overprotective now because of the interviews that I do, but I would rather be overprotective than underprotective because a lot of people who get abused in that, they let their guard slip, not the kids, but the parents. The parents then think, oh, he's a good guy, this and that. And Sarah Hassan's, who I had on a couple of weeks ago, the old man sitting outside the shop, nice old man, gave the kids a job, ended up abusing her sons. And then when he went to court, he got bail. She gets scared, but ran with a knife and killed him. She ended up doing 8 years in prison.
Jesus.
Because we don't know who we're surrounding our kids. And we don't want to be, don't live your life. Do you know what I'm saying? But we're living in a day and age, you've got to be overprotective. You've got to ask the question. My daughter doesn't have sleepovers. Just, and I know they're better in my protection because I've only got the best intentions for them. But we're living in a society, listen, you've got to have some sort of freedom. But she's only 14, so I'm always going to be that overprotective dad.
Yeah, I'm lucky I don't have daughters. I don't know how I'd cope with that. But you kind of, with school and education, you're just giving the power of their upbringing to the kids, to the state, basically. You're giving it away because people have to work. Invariably, that's most people's reason for not homeschooling. Or they say they want a life. When essentially a job is just swapping time for money, isn't it, really, for most people? Giving up X amount of hours a day with your family that you could be raising your kids. You could be spending that quality time with your children and your wife. You're just swapping it for, 15 quid an hour or something like that. And giving that power and influence to, like you said, a figure you don't know, an authority figure that represents the state and the state's version of what they want your kids to think about at certain situations, not something that's coming from you. They can't sit there and ask questions and understand why. They just write that down in your exam and you'll get a good grade. That's essentially what education is, and it's just so backward from what it should be. And that's why we're churning out generations of automatons now. Like, individuality's gone. Because at school you don't want to stand out, do you? At school you just want to fit in, you want to go under the radar, and you want to get through it. Whereas, if you're around people that you love, that care for you, that want the best for you, you're going to thrive in so much more than if you're sat in school. And obviously, like you say with your daughter, she's experiencing it firsthand. Yeah. My kids are homeschooled, and they always will be. They're not going into a school, and that's not just because of that. Obviously, you've got all the knife crime in schools and stuff like that now. That's
safer.
Constantly makes you feel on edge.
Yeah, they're safer. Listen, I understand there's a lot of broken homes now, divorce rates through the roof. Some women out there, listen, fair play, who have to work 2-3 jobs and pay for nursery and pay for this. But to have kids with someone, you've got to ask the deep questions. Now you've got to understand, I want family. Like I say, I want more kids. It's obviously got to be the right partner now. And I want the housewife. I want to provide and protect. I'm not out at the weekends drinking and partying. I don't do that stuff. I just want that structure of building a life and building a family. But you've got to ask the deep questions. And even I'm back in the dating scene, but I've got to, it's difficult now because obviously you're getting older as well. So a lot of people are coming with more trauma. They're coming from broken homes, and a lot of people have drinking problems, mental health problems, and you just don't know either. So it's getting that connection, understanding that they're the right person, because there's no point I can't have any more kids and then be breaking up. It's just unhealthy. I just want that stable household. But so many people are just having kids and not realising the stresses and pressures. Women can turn bastards. The men can turn bastards. Don't want to see their kids. It's not just women. It's also men as well. But you've got to be stable. You've got to have a bit of understanding of, okay, this is what I want. Let's work at it. This is for the kids. Like, it's such a big decision. Back in the day, listen, I had 2 girls pregnant at the same time. I would have had loads of kids back then, if I'm honest. I never had a care. I never gave a fuck.
Yeah.
But then you don't realise till you're older that I just want all my kids under the same roof. Yeah. So I can nurture and I can lead by example. I couldn't lead by example back then when I'm fucking snorting coke and taking drink. But now it's no matter what I achieve, everything is for me is family and dogs, and that's where I find my peace. That's where I can switch off, and I just want to be there. Do you know what I'm saying? Even when I'm on the road, I want to be with the family. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'd love more kids, but we're living in a society. How the fuck at 41 am I going to meet somebody maybe in their 30s? It's sane.
True. I wouldn't even know where to start dating now.
It's fucking crazy. And all these dating apps, it's a free for all. Even Instagram's a dating app.
I know.
It's not just a case of Tinder or Hinge. Your social media's a dating app. I can say, nah, I don't like him, and I'm straight back onto it, speaking to another 100 men or 100 women. Do you know what I'm saying? You're leaving the. It's just you're leaving yourself open. Everybody's accessible, and I don't like that thought either. I don't even like social media. Obviously, I get people to do my clips and put stuff out there and I interact from time to time. But I used to be 12 hours a day in my phone.
Yeah.
And then I've dwindled it down to 5 or 6. But even then, it's still a lot.
Yeah. See, I get home, put the phone on the kitchen side, not allowed to touch it until the kids are asleep. We always say, if me and Beth have got anything we need to discuss that's important, we wait till the kids are asleep, and we get that like 2 hours just family time where, maybe watch something with the kids, play some games, give them a bath, read some stories, go to bed, and you get that time. It's not as long as you'd like it to be. I'd like to be at home more in the day, but the time you get, you cherish, and you make a point of it. Whereas you watch, I'm sure your kids are older than mine, but when you go to like say a soft play with the kids, half the parents sit on their phones.
Yeah.
It's like, Saturday or Sunday, man, go and play with your kids. Get in there like a prat. But they don't.
Just to be more present.
Yeah, to be more present in the moment.
But a lot of people just do stuff with their kids just to get photos for social media.
Yeah.
A lot of people are getting married now just to get posts for social media. A lot of people are wishing people to die so they can post a fucking photo of their loved one and say, oh, R.I.P., miss you so much for likes. We're living in a society of electronical likes.
Yeah.
No matter if it's getting married, popping balloons to reveal the gender. We've got fucking gender reveals for puppies now. And we're living in a fucking weird world where everything is for electronic likes. We're so lost in a world where I want to distance myself from this world.
Yeah, I agree.
Because for me, it's nature. For me, it's love and understanding, and trying to just even question everything's tiresome. Do you know what I'm saying? Just fucking live your life, and whatever these fuckers want to do outside of it, let them fucking do it. But you can only change the world and be good by leading by example, I believe, as well. Sometimes I think promoting it can do more damage than good because it scares the shit out of people.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need to convince and remind kids and younger generations that the best things in life will always be offline. You're not going to experience that true love, content, that moment that you hold your kid for the first time. No, nothing online, no amount of likes, shares, retweets is ever going to compete with that moment. Saying I do with somebody, or just hearing somebody that you care about saying I love you. Like last night, I took my son to football last night, football training, and they got sent over to go and grab a drink like mid-session, and he just come over, love you, daddy, from nowhere, no reason. Nothing will ever compete with that you're going to get online. And it's getting that through to youngsters and reminding adults that you've got lost. If you're posting something and then you're constantly looking to see how many retweets or how many likes or how many shares it's had, you're lost, man. That's not real. It's all fake. Everything is offline.
Never going to think
really matters.
Yeah,
I think.
What sort of stuff are you working then with in Ickonic? What documentaries, stories? What sort of stuff have you been doing in backgrounds?
Kind of a combination of personal stories. We've done some amazing documentaries highlighting whether it be individuals that have done incredible work or are doing incredible work, and also some docs exposing things that need to be exposed. I made a documentary last year called Infertile, which is all about like plummeting fertility rates around the world, which has been a trend for the last 20 odd years, but since 2021 and something got rolled out, it's accelerated even more. Which again, if you're trying to destroy a society, stop people having kids, that's a massive thing. And you've got situations now where most men under 25 now in the West have a lower testosterone rate than World War II veterans. Like, that's just not normal. We're meant to be at the pinnacle of everything, and we're not, clearly.
Why is that?
A number of factors, so many different ones. A big one being birth control pill goes into the water. It's in the water supply, so there's a lot more estrogen in men now than there used to be. Hence why, and that's obviously causing a number of issues. Testosterone rates being one. Another one being how many men have tits now that didn't. How many people have weight issues that didn't. High levels of estrogen in women as well. Is feeding a lot of estrogen-fed cancers. Endometriosis, I think it's called as well. A lot of people having issues. It's not just men. Food, processed food's a massive one. Household chemicals that are not regulated or tested anywhere near as much as they should be. Toxic metals, so many things that are causing fertility. There's not just one. So we made that last year. That did really well. I was down in Sussex earlier this week at like an off-grid homeschooling community, which was just amazing. So we're going to do a documentary on their story, which is going to come out in August.
Who is that? Is it Bill?
It's called Hope.
There's people who I went to speak to the guy who does one as well. Just started with him and his family now. It's all into farm life, on the soil, just growing their own crops.
Yeah.
For me, that's what it's about.
Yeah, I agree.
But could I handle that after being 40 years in one house, nice bed, nice warm shower, home cooked meals? It's not that having home cooked meal, other foods are amazing, but could I go from, but I love fucking nature, but also like my comforts as well. But so I would need to totally transform. But I love the idea of being in the woods and nature and dogs,
me too.
kids, and just away from it all. But also my mind, I don't know if I could enjoy it because I need to be out there hustling sometimes. But
well, I think there's a balance in there, right? I think we've for some reason there's a human condition which is new is always better, and we don't do it like that anymore. We do it like this. When invariably there's always some good to take from that, and rather than rip up and start again, let's keep that and add to it, and the bits that aren't so good make better. So I don't think there's necessarily one extreme or the other. I think you could have both. Like I'm going to look at some land later this week. It's just a field, empty field, not far from my house. That's for lease for like sod all, like 30 quid a week or something ridiculous. And I was going to try and get a group down here that want to do like a permaculture garden, grow some food, that sort of vibe, and just create a bit of a community. And see if that sort of gets off the ground, and do that as like a step one towards like a homestead type something.
Ain't it mad how basic it is to grow your own fruit?
Really easy. It's just space.
From the seeds in the soil. Like, it's so basic. I was watching videos years ago and I didn't realise just taking certain seeds out of apples or whatever and just putting it in soil and growing it. Like, it's so easy.
It's really easy,
we go around supermarkets and spend to these big companies and corporations who spray our fruits. It's not real fruit majority now.
No, it's not.
It's not. It's just crazy how dumbed down we are. This stuff should be getting taught at school, how to grow your own crops and how to understand life and communication, and we're going backwards. The left side is the part which is the creativity, which is your memorization. Your right side is your creativity, but they don't open that up in school. Crunch these numbers, everybody dressed the same, put your hand up if you need anything, put your hand up if you need the toilet, if you get a question wrong, I'm going to embarrass you. If I write an F on your paper, means you're not good enough. Gives a fuck what letters you want to write on my page. Anybody can do anything. The biggest minds and most powerful minds on this planet have come from no education.
Yeah, they have. Well, if you want to like to explain what the system wants and how it wants to get there, who would you rather defeat to make it happen? Do you want a bunch of informed people that know themselves, that are physically fit, strong, healthy, vibrant? Is that who you want across you in the ring? Or do you want someone fat, undermotivated, really naive, no interest, no motivation, no discipline, can't be asked? Who's going to be easier to beat? And that's, if you look at every aspect of the system, whether it's education, whether it's the food, whether it's television we're watching, it's feeding that. It's dumbing people down. It's encouraging that lack of motivation. Why bother trying? You've got no chance of making anything of yourself. All the processed foods. Oh, do you remember it wasn't that long ago that you were far right if you went to the gym? Well, that was actually a Daily Mail news story. Like, what have we become?
They kept McDonald's open.
Just exactly, and that's where I think we need to go as like an alternative movement, if you want to call it that. Is like step one was admitting and identifying that there's a problem, and that's obvious. Step two is what you can do about it. Like, I went to a lot of the big lockdown protests, and there was loads of people there, and it was great, and it created a lot of energy. But then you were there on that Saturday in Trafalgar Square. Well done. What did you do Monday? What did you do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to carry on what you started on Saturday? Because I guarantee a lot of people will have done that and then got a McDonald's drive-thru on the way home after chanting about my body, my choice and health freedom. And it's like, health freedom's important, of course. What are you going to do with it though?
But I went to one and I didn't go back because a lot of people were smoking weed and drinking, and it doesn't feel like a rally for change. It felt like just someone to get out and have a little party.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Because you're talking about freedom, I am free while fucking recording it in your mobile phone. Our mobile phones are our biggest chip, where we're controlled in all our banking, our photos, our videos, what we like, what we love, what our family look like, what we look like, how we're progressing. Our phones have everything. We are not so far from free.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Our phones are the biggest fucking chip.
Yeah, they are.
We are. When we talk about microchip in the brain, which we'll touch on, but we're already chipped. We're not free. All these people, guy had a joint in the mouth and he's recording, can of fucking beers, and I'm thinking that's not free.
Nah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And it's not their bad. They're just seeing posts and they want to fight the system. But what you're really doing when the crowds aren't there?
Yeah, that's
are you really fucking working on yourself? Are you educating yourself? And are you just down there shouting and screaming but nothing gets done?
No, exactly.
And there was too many of that for me, so I kind of distanced myself from it because I wasn't seeing. And listen, there's great, like, people hit the streets and it can create change, but I just felt as if it was becoming too much of a party, too much of let's get out for the day and just have a fucking piss up.
Yeah, it can be.
And I just thought, I wasn't feeling it.
Yeah, it can be, absolutely. There's some amazing people in it that you know, some of the organisers, like a lady called Fiona, who's been in and out of a jail cell more times than anyone else, to be fair. Just that tenacious attitude to make things happen. But yeah, a lot of people that go, it's a day and then life carries on as normal on the Monday. But I feel like once you know this information and you know that essentially your government is there to try and destroy you, not the other way around, how do you just get on with your life as normal? And like, for me, the biggest area I love to talk about and focus on is health, because it's the easiest place to start. You know, you decide what you put in your body, you decide what you drink, you decide whether you smoke, whether you take drugs, you decide whether you go to the gym, you decide the type of content you watch or don't watch, and people that you surround yourself with, whether they're positive people, whether they're negative people. That's your sanctuary, it's your circle. You decide what that is, no one else. No one's force feeding you anything. But I just don't see a lot of, because that's a really easy example to take control for yourself. You don't need anyone else to do that. You don't need a saviour. That relies on you and that discipline. And you still see so many people not doing that. They talk about it. They know that this is happening, but they're not taking that first step to go, well, let's do something about it then. Same principle with, like, you know, the education we were talking about with your kids. If you know that the system is indoctrinating them, why can't you do everything you can to try and take them out of that system then? Or whatever you can do to try and
we
give
should
them
all
a
be
different
doing more.
alternative.
We should definitely all be doing more, but we're just so caught up in the system. Remember, we've been programmed from such a young age. We used to have tuck shops in schools.
Yeah, I remember.
Crisps, chocolates, like Frosties used to sell, like little red sweets.
Yeah.
All our teeth were ruined by the time we got to 6, 7 years old. It's all fizzy juice. Like, we're programmed then. Every shop you get into, it's chocolate, it's crisps, it's fizzy juice, it's alcohol, it's vaping now, it's fags. Like, it's just, it's all, for people to genuinely, it's just, everything's static.
Yeah.
They're caught up in a job, they need to pay their bills, they're so caught up in pressure, they're so distant from the truth.
Yeah.
They understand the truth, but they're so far away from it. It's to strip all that back. It's fucking difficult.
Well, that's the
because
biggest
you've
change.
got to start from square one again.
Yeah, you have.
And to eventually, because you have to change your identity, your personality from what you've learned 20, 30, 40, 50 years through life. You've got to then unravel all the bullshit you've been fed.
And that scares a lot of people.
Yeah, that's why they stay in their own little bubble, which is, listen, it's not a bad thing as long as you're not harming anyone, but there's a bigger picture. Why does there not protesters in the street every day for what the government's done, for what the lies the media says over the years? Just forgot about, because it's new news, there's new stories, there's new Will Smith slapped someone on stage.
I know.
Gives a fuck.
I think
You know
people are also terrified of change, and it's that whole better the enemy you know. Like, they know the system's fucked, but they know they can just about cope with it as it is.
Yeah.
Because they know the enemy, they know what they're dealing with. They can try and work out ways to sort of get around it. Whereas if you said, right, we're going to literally start from scratch, what does that look like? That's people's fear. And there's this assumption, I think, that means it's going to be worse. And whenever there's any kind of change, when you break down, when you leave a relationship that's toxic, for example, it's not easy straight away. It's better in the long run. And you know, if you don't do that, it's only going to get worse. And I think we're at that position. If we don't change, it's only going to get worse. So, okay, if we completely rip this system apart, it might be turbulent for a few years. It might take a bit of time to settle down. There might be a few curveballs, but in the long run, it's going to be hugely better than the trajectory it's on at the moment.
Do you think the world will ever be there's so much beautiful in the world, there's so much greatness and beautiful things in the world. When you actually travel,
Yeah.
you don't see all the destructions. Social media, you see everything as the world is in turmoil. But when you actually go to different places and see different cultures, you realise the world ain't that bad. But do you ever think it will be free from all the toxic shit and following these corrupt leaders? Do you think it will ever be free of the sky's being sprayed, the food's being sprayed, the water's being sprayed? Social media is just brain damage and all the pharmaceutical industry. Do you think it will ever be free from all that?
Yeah, I do. For a simple fact that if you look at the entire system is built to make everybody fail, whether that be your health, whether that be happiness, whether that be financial, it's built to make you fail. The military industrial complex is built for conflict. Healthcare systems are built to make you ill. Education is built to indoctrinate. The whole media narrative is built to push people apart. Despite all of that, as you just said, there's still so many beautiful things, beautiful places, beautiful people. Imagine if all of that was encouraging that. It wouldn't take long. I think they can try, and they have done their best efforts to destroy people, but I think deep down within our consciousness, that probably even, the people that know as much as the greatest speakers in the world can't quite put their finger on yet. There's something that's going to override this. There's something that's more powerful than the world that these people are trying to create. And I don't believe that everyone here at this time has come here to fail. I kind of think that we all chose to be here now. The next few years are going to be interesting. They're going to be turbulent. They're not going to be easy. But I think we're all here for the fight. I think we're all chose to be here and be part of this generation that future generations will look back on and go, geez, I'm glad they did what they did, because if they didn't, what the hell would our world look like right now?
What do you think of all the Epstein stuff and P. Diddy stuff? It just seems all these MPs as well getting caught and all these cover-ups with the grooming gangs. It just seems messy and dirty.
Yeah.
I interviewed a cop and he says 1 in every 4 houses are paedophiles. There's a paedophile in them. 1 in every 4 houses. That's millions of people. It's like 2-3 million people in the UK. I thought he says 1 in 4. I was told 1 in 30, but he says 1 in every 4 houses. So it's like maybe, say, 4 in a house. It's like 1 in every 16.
So that's people you're probably interacting with in your street, in your tower block on a daily basis then, if that figure's right. Jeez, that's incredible.
Scary.
But the MP one's interesting. You take any company anywhere in the world, if the number of people in that company were convicted sex offenders, you'd be asking some questions of the company.
BBC.
Exactly. Whereas in politics, the world over, from cross party lines, different countries, there's so many cases, and they're just the ones you hear about. And invariably they chuck kind of low level MPs, don't they, to the wolves. And I think that was really a really important point that people missed when all the stuff came out about Savile, and that started to put some questions into a lot of older Tory MPs like Leon Britton and Lord McAlpine and Ted Heath and others. It was all retrospective, and the grooming gangs is the same. It's all, this happened, it was covered up, it's terrible, and yeah. But it's definitely not still happening now. Definitely don't look at who's in power today. Definitely don't look at grooming gangs that are still definitely rife in Rotherham and Telford and other towns across the country today. It's all what's happened in the past. Mistakes were made, cover-ups were done. Those in the council, in the police, they're gone now. It's different now. When it's not. It's all trying to get you to look back. So whether that be looking at, as we did with Savile, where it's looking at the BBC and the involvement of anyone there, that stuff still goes on now. 100%.
Starmer says there was no evidence against him with Savile.
100%.
And this is the guy that's running your country, allegedly.
Yeah, and how do you think you can get that close to the royals without them knowing what you had for breakfast 4 weeks ago? No way.
I had someone in who says he used to give advice to Prince Charles. How wicked was he? How connected was he? Was he some sort of, because some people say he was a wizard or whatever it is, but was he royalty himself? It just doesn't sit right how know. He had so much freedom.
Well, I think he was
Palace and from a fucking DJ.
I think he was the procurer, wasn't he? He provided the kids for them in the same way that Epstein, same principle. That's why they had the access and the connectivity they did. And the fact that went on for so long, so many years, like you say, when he wasn't even at the BBC anymore, when he was basically finished as a a famous name. It was him being around the royals that kept him in the media, kept
Yeah,
him
but the
relevant.
All Sign Gagging Ogres was a one that's coming out probably the next few years, but a very popular TV show, and nothing can be said until he's dead, and this will shock the world, the country anyway.
Right.
It's bad.
Nothing would surprise me. I think we're at the point now. You go on BBC News now, nothing would surprise you, nothing. But all of that came out, it was all pushing you back. You know, they obviously arrested a few people like Jim Davidson, didn't they, and a few other people who said a few interesting things over the years while ignoring probably the most prevalent people of it, which you hear interviews from Hollywood whistleblowers. They talk about it, you know, the execs, the people you've never heard of. They're the ones that are behind a lot of it. You know, when they chuck someone's name out that is a public face, they're chucking you something, a breadcrumb, someone's name to put behind all of the rumors and X,
Yeah.
Y, and Z. And again, like we were saying about workplaces, and if you had 2 employees, look at the royals, man. If you had 2 brothers in the same family, one was best mates with Britain's most notorious paedophile, another was mates and travelled and stayed with America's most notorious paedophile, you'd be asking some questions of the family, wouldn't you? You'd be like, what's going on here? Yeah, nothing. One's now king, and one sat on taxpayers' dime hiding away. It's just insane that people don't put that together and go, hang on a minute, everything is His Majesty's this, His Majesty's that, and his best mate was Jimmy Savile. But no, get on with it, mate. Let's all salute God Save the King. It's literally mental.
What stuff do you like working on? Is there any sort of topics that you enjoy working on for Ickonic?
For me, I love the health stuff. I mean, I'll run a podcast called Health Code where
Can people listen?
it's on Spotify. So I just chat to anyone and everyone who's talking about different aspects of health. So we've had mental health practitioners, we've had like biological dentists that are approaching dentistry a completely different way, nutritionists, psychologists, energy medicine experts, biohackers. I just find it fascinating. I just sit I'm treating it as my health degree, if you like. I just sit and ask the questions I think somebody at home who's heard this for the first time would benefit from, and try and get whatever they've got to say, get that out of them in a way that you can then build on and learn more. And just, it's been a great education. I'm going to write a book on it next year. The greatest lessons that I've learned.
What do you think about fasting?
Fasting, I do it every day. Do 16-8.
What about the 72 hours?
I've done that before. I've done the 86 one, the Gary Brecker 86.
That's it, kills cancer cells, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
how true is it? And how beneficial is it for people to fast?
Well, I can only talk about my experience, which I felt incredible. I did 86 hours, partly for health, partly because I was going to Portugal with the family. So I did.
It's a good way to lose half a stone.
I did.
How long did you much to lose? About 9 pounds?
I think about seven, yeah. But I did 86 hours from like the Monday, and we flew on the Thursday. So I broke the fast with a pint by the pool, which probably wasn't the greatest way to do it, but I did it so the first picture on holiday looked quite nice. But I do 24 hours at the start of the week. So I have dinner Sunday, don't eat till Monday dinner. And then I do 16-8 the rest of the week. And I've been doing that for a long time now and feel amazing. Skin feels great. And I've noticed now I train weights in the morning. So I'll have to do weights and then I won't eat till lunchtime. And I feel absolutely great, feel fine, feel strong. So a lot of the myths that you read about, that you'll feel weak, you'll lose muscle, you feel tired, not if you do it right. And you make sure during that eating window you eat really good quality stuff. If you do 16-8 and eat Domino's and crap and McDonald's in your eating window, you're going to feel shit. But if you eat really good stuff, then I can only speak highly of it, to be honest.
No, because there's benefits now. It says it grows the muscle.
Yeah.
It kills cancer cells. It clears the fog in the brain, cleans out the gut, the intestines. Like, it's so important. Like, people just do your own research with it. Maybe do a 24-hour one, which is pretty easy if you start from 6 o'clock at night till 6 the next night. What about cold water?
Cold water, do that every day as well.
What about saunas?
Got that. So I do hot and cold every night. So I got an ice bath and a steam sauna in the garden, and do 4 minutes in the ice bath and then the sauna for about as long as you can handle, about 20-25 minutes. And yeah, that's amazing. Like, you sleep. You do a lot of cold water, don't you?
Cold water, but we're doing a lot of saunas.
You sleep
hot
amazing,
yoga
don't you?
at night. We do the 90 minutes hot yoga. But my flexibility is shite. I just go there for the basic heat.
Yeah.
And the sweat up, but like you say, the sleep, whatever position you fall asleep in, you wake up in, you're out.
You do. Yeah, the same. Yeah, last night I went to bed watched the Arsenal game last night, and then, next thing I know, alarm was going off at 4 o'clock.
See, I still love football, obviously being raised with football, but also know that's a system.
Yeah.
How do we then question it? How do we then, because people take it home with them. People can make a break it, people can smash up their house, people can get angry. I watch it and go, okay, I'll still always look at the scores. If there's a football game and I'm at the house, I'll always watch it. But I do know it's entertainment. I do know, as the old saying, feed them bread and water, keep them entertained, and I don't really ask the real questions. But can you separate it as well?
Yeah, I just find it like chewing gum for the mind. You know, it's a way of switching off. I enjoy watching it, but then I know that it doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I watched the game last night. I watched the Villa PSG game tonight with my neighbour who's a Villa fan.
I hope Villa win.
Yeah, so do I.
But PSG, I think, will win it.
Good side. I think they'll win it. I think Inter will win the competition though.
I think they went for 2-1 last
night. A few
night.
quid on that. Yeah, they had a good win last night. Yeah.
But PSG, that's the first time they've looked like a team.
Yeah,
they had Messi and Mbappe,
Liverpool in that first leg.
Neymar, and they were shite.
Yeah, Liverpool were lucky to get out of Paris without a 5-0 defeat. But you just once it goes off, it goes off, and it's not the be all and end all and life defining part of your day. It's something to stick on in the evening, and it's something I enjoy. To be honest, football for me, the best part of my week with football, I watch Match of the Day with my two sons on a Sunday morning, the rerun of it, before we go and play, and it's brilliant. And they're both like massively into the football now. And that's really nice because I get to enjoy that moment with them, kind of like I enjoyed with my dad when I was a kid.
Because it keeps them fit, keeps them off the streets.
Yeah.
Like, it's so many benefits. It is toxic as well because my big friend Barry, his son was playing, I think he's only like 12, 13, but the fight breaks out in the pitch and the dads are on. Like, it is quite toxic, but it's a masculine sport. Football should be about kicking, not violence all the time, but it's a fucking man's sport. Yeah, have the game, kick fuck out each other, shake hands after it.
That's the thing. As long as there's respect, and I think that's important. I think it's important to know how to deal with setbacks and adversity and losing and winning and try harder next time. And I think that's important. I think you can protect kids too much.
We're living in a fucking society now where kids are getting medals for finishing 10th.
Yeah, sod that.
Fuck
I'm
off,
not like
man.
that.
You're a winner in that set. You're second, you're a loser in my eyes.
I got, last year, we always go down to the Isle of Wight for August bank holiday weekend, right? And they do, on the Monday, they do in the village that my wife grew up in, where we stay, they do like a sports day and a carnival, and they do races for kids, races for adults and all of that. Year before, my son Travis won, and second year he's come third. Right, and he was too obsessed looking along the line to see where everyone else was rather than just running. Anyway, he got a bronze medal, right, and came over like, "Daddy, I came third." And I went, "We don't celebrate bronze medals." Like, joking, joking, and I just saw the horror from like other parents next to me. It's like, it was a joke, but you know, I think we do glorify failure a lot. Like, but that's the crazy thing. I always thought this during school is everyone gets a medal in sport. But if you got an A star in science and you got a D, you're still getting a D. They don't, when it comes to that, they don't care. But in sport and anything that's competition based, team based, everyone gets a participation trophy. Well, all that's going to breed is just a bunch of people that don't really try. Because for me, whenever I got rejection and get rejection anywhere in life, it's right. What can I do to improve? Sometimes it might just be that the person's better than you. At which point, you can hold your hands up and say, "I've tried everything. I've given it everything. You're just better than me. Fair enough." Whereas if you could look and go, actually, I could do that a bit better, do that a bit better, do that a bit better, and come back again, that's such a great character trait to have. And that's why I think team sport is so important, and dealing with that. Like my lads, they do football 3 times a week, do gymnastics, do MMA. And, you know, I want them involved in competition from a really young age. And I'm sure you had the same with when your girls were younger. Can you tidy your room? Nah, well, I bet you can't tidy it before I've washed up. Competition straight away, they'll do it.
Yeah.
That's our parenting style. Massively. Whoever wins out of you two gets a chocolate, and next thing you know, the room's tidy.
What's the best advice you've ever had?
That's a great question. Whatever happens today, they'll talk about something else tomorrow. So, you know, your life's not defined by one moment. It's defined by a series of moments and how you respond to them. Because in a life, you know, if you live a decent length of life, you're going to have great moments, you're going to have adversity. And I don't actually think those moments matter. I think it's how you deal with them. So that big win you had in life, whatever that is, you know, whether that's getting the girl, whether that's getting the kid, whether that's your business doing well, what do you do next to make sure that you don't dwell on that and then it all goes to shit? When you have, you know, situations that are not great, how do you respond to them? Like, you know, coming up for 2 years ago, we lost my sister.
Yeah, sorry for
And that immediately within like a couple of weeks was like, I saw her kids, obviously at the end, and was like, I want to cherish every moment I have with mine, because you never know when it's going to be your last. You know, you can step out in front of a car tomorrow. You don't know. So I think that's kind of the responding to that taught me a lot about cherishing every second, making sure the people that you love know you love them. And, you know, if you went today, you don't want to, obviously, but there's nothing left unsaid. There's nothing, no one's that you care about is under any disillusion or uncertain terms how you felt about them and how important they were to your life. So I think when you have adversity, how you deal with it, how you respond to it. And, you know, you're going to have things that are going to try and beat you down, but it's up to you whether you stay down. So I think that was a big moment. And if shit things happen, you know, whether that's, you know, in my life, you talked about ridicule and stuff earlier, whether it's a news story, well, there's a different one on tomorrow. It doesn't really matter. And probably the best bit of advice that I always say to people is, you know, if you don't love and respect somebody, who cares what they think of you? Because they're going to think that anyway. Whether you, you know, and if it's completely unjustified, like someone says, oh, you're just a wanker, mate. But why? You don't even know me. You follow me on Twitter. Never met me. You don't know what kind of person I am, really. You just seen a tweet you don't like. So don't get invested in it. Don't care. As long as your partner, your kids, your close friends, people you respect, your parents, as long as they are comfortable with who you are and love you for who you are, who cares what any of the outside influence thinks?
What do you think life is? What do you think it's all about?
I don't know yet.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know yet.
That's what changed my mind.
For me, it's just about leaving nothing on the table. I don't want to get to the end of my life and think, I wish I'd done that. Mm-hmm. I'd rather think I wish I didn't do that. Because they always say it's the things you don't do you regret. Because I think if you do something and it doesn't work out, you know that. You know it's not worked out. You can say, I tried, didn't happen. Whereas if you don't do something, I think there's always that, could life have been different if I had done this? So I'd much rather leave everything on the table. So for me, it's just about trying to be the best person you can be, constantly trying to work on yourself, being a positive role model for people around you. And like you said, living it, not talking it, living it. Because every time you walk down the street, if you're, especially these days, if you're in shape, you're dressed well, you look after yourself, you're walking with a bit of authority, you're holding hands with your partner, you're clearly interacting with your kids, well, anyone walking past just sees that. And without even speaking to them, you're potentially influencing them. Whether that be, you know, oh, he looks in good shape, I'm going to lose a bit of weight, or, you know, whether it be a bloke going, look at the relationship they've got with their kids, I'm going to try a bit harder with mine, whatever. I think that's really, really important, is to be your true self.
Yeah.
And I always think as well, if there was a hidden camera that you didn't know was there following you every second of the day, would you cringe if they went, oh, we're going to play it on BBC One News tonight? Would that expose you? Or would that be inspire you? Would that be the people that you know? Would they look at that going, yeah, that's just James being James? Or would it be, fucking hell, what's this? He's not like that when he's around me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, because then, you know, you are who you are. You don't have to remember anything. You can just be yourself.
Where does Ickonic go for the future? Obviously, your dad's now banned in 30 countries, which that's a good feat, I think.
It's a good effort.
Somebody who speaks out against the system. I think that just proves that
Level 3
what he's saying
terrorist
is legit. So I think people who get cancelled and banned from places, I think it tells you a lot.
Yeah.
Where does it go though for the future? You're talking, keep it going for yourself, your kids. How does it go? How does it evolve and keep going and try to speak the truth and try to uncover topics that nobody wants to talk about?
Well, for me, I said, so I'm 32 now. I said I wanted to run this till I was 40 and then reevaluate where we are, where the world is, and look at what to do next. For me, not in the current system, but potentially in a different one, I'd love to go into politics of some form, not in its current form, because no point, you can't make any difference, you can't make any impact.
You're corrupt.
You just get brought, and you just get brought into it, and you'd end up having to probably sacrifice certain ideas just to get a bit of influence, because you think it's that whole adage of, well, if I sacrifice this for a bit and I get a bit of power, then I can do good, which I guarantee a lot of people that with honest intentions originally go in and do, and they probably actually never end up bringing back the good. RFK might be an example of that, for example. So I'd be interested in doing something like that in future. But for me, this is just about being able to give people a platform to tell stories, to expose things that are not being covered, give people a deeper context and understanding as to why the world is the way it is, who's behind it, the types of things that these people have planned, and get out ahead of it. So, we're sat here with 10,000 subscribers, in a one story floor here in Derby. I'd love to be sat here when I'm 40 with 1 million subscribers, with something in America, with something in Australia, and be a real force in media, and not even be called alternative media, just be media, because you're reaching the kind of numbers that the mainstream do.
What do your subscribers get?
So it's, if you want to subscribe, first month's $1.99, then it's $7.99, or it's £50 for the year. So obviously it's much cheaper to do it for the year. So you get brand new shows every single day, news articles, podcasts. We do new films every couple of months, weekly live stream Q&As with our different presenters, whether that's myself, Gareth, a guy called Richard Willett, who's really great on the esoteric side, obviously David, Christiana, who's really great on the spiritual and consciousness side of information. So you get a bit of everything. You get global current events, which we do in our podcast every morning, what's going on in the world that day. You'll get health information, consciousness stuff, hidden knowledge, paranormal, esoteric, a bit of everything, really.
How can people sign up?
So it's just Ickonic.com, Ickonic.com. You can only sign up on the website. We've got apps on all the television channels, all the different television manufacturers, Samsung, so on, Amazon Fire Stick, Roku, Android and iOS phones, and we're working on improving and adding to those all the time. So yeah, that's the thing. It's this coming weekend. In a few weeks, we're going to do a few films out for free to try and showcase what we can do to people.
Yeah, where can people? Your dad was promoting that as well on Good Friday, I think.
Yeah, Good Friday. Yeah,
Where
Good
can
Friday.
people watch this.
So that'll just be on Ickonic.com or personanongrata.film. That's a film all about his ban, which we premiered that in Holland a couple of weeks ago, and the reception was amazing. And it's so bizarre to have watched, even though I've known the story obviously over the last 2 years. All the people that say, nah, they wouldn't have done that, they wouldn't have done that. You've got government lawyers actually saying it in court. And it's just incredible to watch. Anyone, whether you follow David, like what he says or don't, it's so important, because freedom of speech across the board is under threat, because it might be him today that they don't like, but it might be you tomorrow. So I think it's an important kind of litmus test for people to look at and go, yeah, whether we like this guy or not, we've got to support the fact that this is unacceptable. You can't ban somebody because you don't like their opinion.
Yeah,
can't do that.
If that was the case, everybody would be banned.
Yeah. Well, because the thing is, like Ricky Gervais said in his last stand-up, is by banning someone today for what they said 20 years ago, or what they might have said, and not just, this is not David, this is anyone, all you're ensuring is one day you'll get banned, because what people speak about now, or what people did speak about, isn't acceptable in the future. Like we talk about, women can't have penises. No one saw that coming. 20 years ago, nobody thought you couldn't say that. Yet now you can't. It's just literally mental.
Yeah, I watched the documentary on Vince McMahon on Netflix, and the stuff that those wrestlers used to do.
Oh yeah.
10, 20, 30 years ago, like, and say it was, you would get the fucking jail now.
Yeah, you would.
But that's what I'm saying. What's acceptable back then, it doesn't mean it should be acceptable, but what is acceptable back then, you can't then throw it in someone's face 20, 30 years later because they've said certain things then. I think even Kevin Hart, he was the Oscars is a sham anyway, but
tweets, wasn't it?
Yeah, he put a tweet out, I think it was a gay joke. I think he apologised for it once and says, you need to apologise again. And says, no, I'm not fucking doing it.
No.
Fair play for that. He ended up not getting the job. And yeah, but people are going to say shit. We live in this society.
And you have people backing away from stuff. Like the Little Britain guys, Matt Lucas and David Williams, like, they're going, oh, we wouldn't make Little Britain again now. It's like, it's the only reason you're famous, lads. So what's why you've got how many houses?
Yeah, that was
It was that.
Even though you look at South Park and what it says in some of these things, even Kevin and Perry,
Yeah.
like,
Oh yeah.
comedy's comedy.
And it was true. It was
Yeah.
observational comedy. That's what it's like. A lot of it.
That's life.
Yeah.
Like comedy's, it's the purest form of laughter's one of the purest forms of connection. Like it
is,
does
yeah.
something to you.
I think when you take the piss out of dark moments, like dark humour, and laughing in the face of adversity is so powerful as well. So powerful.
But I don't want you to laugh.
No, they don't.
They just want you dumbed down, sit at your desk and just get ready for the next day.
Yeah.
Like it's mad with working in a society where you're paying 6 months taxes. You work so much of the time to try and just make ends meet. And listen, there's some people actually happy doing what they're doing. That's good. You've got the keys to life. You've sussed it out.
Yeah.
But it's just when you start questioning what the patterns are and how the system operates, you think, nah, that's not for me. That.
No, absolutely. Sometimes think that would be easier to be really ignorant.
Yeah.
In some way. It would be for a while, but you know, whether you believe it in any of this or not, it's still coming for you.
Yeah.
Like you said, the taxes are still going up. Everything's still going up. Crime rate's still going up, whether you want to believe it or not. So at least if you are knowledgeable and understand it, you can at least try and get out ahead of it and do something about it.
So if you were in politics, you became Prime Minister, you wanted to do good, what 5 things would you change in the UK to make it a better, stronger place?
Right. So I would diversify power a lot, and I'd give local councils and local authorities a lot more influence over what happened in that area. So for me, what happens in Derby should be decided by people that live in Derby, people that understand the city, understand the culture, understand the way it works. Because every town, every city is different. Even in a small country like England and Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland, there's cultural differences in town to town. You know, you'll know a Glaswegian to a Aberdonian, and there's different cultures, different understanding. So having one central point, I think that's one of the main issues with politics in this country, is you've got London and everywhere else. No one in that London bubble can identify with people up in the northeast that are struggling to pay the bills, people in Manchester that are struggling, in Birmingham that have got rubbish and rats piling up in the streets at the moment. So I think that would be a big one. I would secure the borders for a start. I think that's every country, and that's not just coming at this from a British perspective. Every country needs to know who is coming in, because if you've got people coming in that you can't verify, you don't know who they are, you don't know what they might have done, that's such a dangerous thing to have. And one person on the street who you can't identify that's attacking people is one too many. So that would be a big one as well. And I would do a complete audit of all the every single penny that is taken in taxes and where it goes. Because if you did that, billions and billions would be going nowhere. You know, and that's why there always seems to be money for things that are agenda pushing things, whether that be climate catchers, whether that be green energy, whether that be money to Ukraine, while there's no money for people that are really, really struggling in this country, when there should be. The tax take home is more than enough for everyone to be, you know, living in a situation where they're not worrying about the gas bill, about the rent, about whether they're going to eat or heat their homes. There's no need for that. Given the resources the country has, the amount it takes in. So they would be major ones. And I would try and have a re-identification of politics where anyone in a government that, let's say, I was running, they understand that they work for the people, not the other way around. They represent the people that have put them there, and their interests come above yours. And a big one, I would ban any type of lobbying. Any type. If you're a government minister and you're on X amount, that's your income. You don't get any extra money from giving speeches here, from sponsorship there, from, you know, investments for suits or whatever it was Starmer was doing. That's gone. You earn what you earn from Parliament, and if that's not enough, don't want you to do that job. Because what you have is you have people that go into politics. Liz Truss is a good example. She went to uni, she then worked in a think tank, she then worked in a bank, then she became an MP. How the hell is she worth like 20 million? Where's that come from? There's no explanation for where that's come from. If you go into politics and come out of it richer, you haven't done that on 150 grand a year MP salary. Where's that millions come from? It's come from lobby groups, interest groups, and they're not giving you that unless your policy, your voting record is going to give them what they want. So I'd get rid of all of that.
How are you feeling today, bro?
Good.
What's all your social medias and stuff? Are people get involved?
Yeah, so Twitter's just Jaymie Icke, Instagram Jaymie Icke, and then for most of my stuff, it's all the Ickonic ones. So Ickonic Media, we're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube for now, Twitter. So yeah, you can find us anywhere.
Poison, man.
It is
so poison.
I just love going on occasionally and winding people up.
Yeah, you go on it and it gives you a sore head. It's just so bad.
Yeah,
People are just unwell
Yeah.
on it. I think, wow, man, like it's so dark.
yeah, it is.
Instagram's not too bad. It's quite fluffy. There's a lot of good information on it as well. But it's more, look at me. My life is perfect. Twitter's
It's fake.
is hatred.
Yeah, it is.
Like you never go in there and come off it in a good mood.
No, you're not.
You think, wow.
It's so fake.
Oh.
It's so fake. I remember, I can't stand him, but I remember Piers Morgan making a point. He posted the same picture and it was him getting on a private jet. And he went Instagram versus Twitter. And it was, thanks to some airport for the hospitality this morning. And Instagram was like, safe flight, Piers, have a good one. Twitter's like, hope your plane crashes, hope this happens. Like, fucking hell, man.
Like, it is heavy.
It's so dark.
Yeah.
So dark. You got, like you said earlier, you got people calling for people to get killed. It's mental.
For anybody watching or listening that's maybe want to question things more, where do they start? Just because it's hard for people who's been caught up in that bubble,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
whirlwind, to then hearing certain information. Obviously, your dad's so advanced, it can be a bit much for people. But just for the average person who's just maybe in that little bubble of theirs, and that's not a bad thing, but just to question what you're doing, because if you start talking about your foods and your deodorants, your aftershaves, your detergents that you use for your floor, like, it's so much. Your water that you're drinking, like, it is a lot for people. But is there anywhere people could start to just maybe question and take baby steps with it all?
Well, I think an easy one would be to sit down with a blank sheet of paper and think about everything that you believe about everything. Why do you believe it? Do you believe it because you've come to a conclusion yourself? Or do you believe it because it's just kind of social convention? That means that, and you've probably never really thought about it. So, like, you asked me a question, what is life? How many people have actually thought of that? Like, I'm sat here, I've got a job, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Have I ever actually sat down and thought about what I want, what will make me happy, what will make me fulfilled? And just jot some things down. And before you know it, you'll start to realize that probably a lot of what you think, a lot of what you believe, you've never really thought deeply about. It's just, that was on telly once, they said this, so I kind of just went along with it, because so did all my mates, so did my parents. So I'd probably start there. And you'll realize very quickly that if you do start looking into a few of the things that you've just blindly sort of believed, they fall apart very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. And, it all depends what your mindset is. If you're in that bubble and you're pretty happy with your life and, you're quite content, I get it. It's a little bit harder to I guess, question things, because you're going, well, I'm actually pretty okay. But the vast majority of people aren't okay. The vast majority of people are struggling. They just don't know why. And I think starting to ask a few of those questions about what am I doing with my life and why did I think this is what was meant for me, and you realize you've actually been sold a dream that isn't real. That's a starting point to go, well, I'm going to start building something that I am going to think about. I am going to think about what I want, what's going to make me feel fulfilled. So most people don't do that. And I think if you don't have any meaning in your life, purpose, you're bound to be depressed. That's why there's a mental health crisis, because people have got no meaning, for me. So I'd start there, blank sheet of paper, start jotting some things down, and then start working from there.
Brother, would you like to finish up on anything else?
Jeez, that's the longest I've ever talked, man.
Is it?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, good on you, mate. It took on a little journey. It's just your life story, background, but obviously we can get into more the other stuff for our next interview, like all the conspiracy stuff and all the
amazing.
stuff what's getting uncovered. But it's to understand from, like I say, your father's son to then what's he doing with his life, and just taking it on a little journey from your own life and homeschooling, and we all see the world differently, so it's good to understand.
We do, and I think that's something that we've lost, that we can all see the world differently. We don't know, if we all thought the same, looked the same, dressed the same, how dull would the world be? Half the reason that people love traveling is because culture's different, people are different, they look different, they talk different, they act different, and that's amazing. But we've kind of reached a point where there's such a lack of acceptance that we're not going to all think the same. So why do we all have to? Even in the truth movement, like, we can all disagree that the fine detail stuff, but we can all agree that the world's not in a great state. So let's ignore everything here for a second and focus on that one common thing, that the world ain't great. So what can we do about that? And then we'll make it better. So that's what I'd start with.
Jaymie boy, absolute pleasure, mate. All the best for the future.
Nice one.
And speak to you soon.
Thanks,
Cheers,
mate.
brother.